I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
Doobie-doobie-doo. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're excited and ready for the weekend. Are you ready? I am ready. Welcome to Sabby Sabs Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs Podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, fam. It's been a hot minute. I was just here last night, and here we are again. We have some pretty cool news stories to discuss tonight. But first and foremost, I want to give shout outs to people in the chat. What is up, fam? Shout out to Tim, though. Free Palestine. Keep up the fight, Sabby. My whole family is watching you live. Let's go. Tear down the duopoly. Joy Reid and Angela Rye and all the DNC shills piss me off. This is a genocide. WTF, 100%. I feel ya. I feel you. More power to you, Tim. More power. Shout out to Sneaker. Obama scolds black men. But one question I have is, why isn't he out campaigning hard for Kamala? We love Obama, and if he was holding his own rally separate from Kamala, it would make a difference. Well, he is, you said, why isn't he out campaigning hard? He is campaigning for Kamala. That's actually what the story is about, or sort of about. Like, he's scolding black men, but it's during him campaigning for Kamala. I'll get into that when we get to the story. But this is interesting. I don't love Obama. I don't know if you're new or not, Sneaker Game, but I'm not a fan of Barack Obama, and I'll get to that reason when we get into the story. Shout out to Robert, says Obama scolding black men again. We heard enough of that nonsense when he was running his mouth at Morehouse. If he wants to scold someone, he should scold white women for voting GOP. Interesting. All right, people are already hot. People are already mad at Obama. Shout out to Weapons of Mass Destruction, says, who's the bald guy, Clyde Drexler? The bald guy, Clyde. That is Joy Reid. Stop. Shout out to Anonymous, says, maybe Obama should just vote harder. Oh, I see what you did there. Shout out to Wayne Turner, and let's give Wayne Turner a big whoop whoop for becoming a Sabby member. Thank you so much, Wayne. Greetings, M-Day, says, scold this. Shout out to David, says, Sabby, I am so tired of Kamala Harris and Trump two-party system. I agree with you, David. I'm right there with you. Greetings, Kel, says, Sabby, did you see the attack ad on Jill? Yes, that is the bonus story tonight. So I do have a bonus news story, and that's the one. You called it, Kel. You called it. Yeah, I didn't actually see that that clip from Morning Joe until after I created the stream, but I was like, yeah, I got to cover this tonight. Shout out to Lawrence, says, free Palestine. Greetings, Max, says, Dems are clearly getting very desperate and they're acting out. Let's keep them desperate. Let's keep them desperate. Shout out to Mark, says, Israel's prime minister is from Pennsylvania. Yeah. And thank you for saying that, Mark. Greetings, Hannah, says, oh, that Pierce debate was good. Yeah, buddy. You're going to get some laughs tonight because I was laughing so hard at that debate. Shout out to Natalie, says, TGIF star shines. Greetings, Mike HW. Is Obama a racist? No, Obama is not a racist. He is he can be very condescending. He has a big ego, but he's not a racist. We'll get into that. Shout out to Casey, says, just got the power back on 2 days after the hurricane. Thankful to join you all tonight. I'm glad you have your power back on, Casey. I've been through that. I used to live in the Carolinas and we used to get hurricanes every year and it's not fun. And I know what it's like. There's nothing worse than not having power because there's things that you don't think about doing until you don't have power and you realize that you can't do it. Shout out to Grassy Knoll, says Obama, the same guy that met with the Wall Street bankers after the '08 financial meltdown, Jamie Dimon, Lloyd Blankfein, and John Mack, to name a few. And Obama said the people with pitchforks want you. Yeah. Oh, we'll get into it, Grassy Knoll. We'll get there. Greetings, Mark, says Sabby. Shout out to what? Kevin says protect Israel. Nah. They good. They are empowered. They can protect themselves. Breedings politics as usual. Hey, class, what's up? It's not often I get to catch the show live, but you guys be killing it in the chat. A toast to you all and Sabby members. Green Party voters since 2008. Let's get free. So you did not vote for Obama in '08. This is a good one. You know who else didn't, you guys? Case Study QB. Case Study QB, you see me. I show a lot of his clips on the show. Case Study QB did not vote for Obama. Shout out to C. Shata, says Sabby. Hey. Greetings, Saul, says, you know, Obama wishes he'd been a scumbag lawyer instead of selling his soul to political donors. You can't ever retire. Gotta hop up and meddle to support evil. Yeah. Makes you wonder. And shout out to Q Quita, who says, hi, everyone. Nice weekend. Hi. Greetings. Emily says, love the show. Thank you. And welcome, Emily. Shout out to Pardon My Presence, says, do the rock away. Hey. Do you guys remember that song from Fat Joe? Remember the song from Fat Joe? Like, do the rock. What's that, Fat Joe? Yeah, it was Fat Joe. Do the rock away and lean back. I used to love that song. All right, guys, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. You guys know you can always count on some type of song or dance from me on the show. Okay. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate your support. And if you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories, fam. Ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters in the house. Don't forget about those Sabbies. Those are cool peeps as well. They're all holding down the fort, doing the damn thing. And we also want to give a shout out to members as well. Don't forget about them. Yeah. I was laughing in one of the comments. And I want to give a special shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for James Ray, SKG, and Constance M. St. Jean. Thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome, everyone. It is going to be a pretty interesting show. Yeah, you know, I got to go out with a banger. It's the weekend. So we got to do the damn thing. So what are we going to discuss tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go ahead and share that beautiful thumbnail and we can roll that beautiful bean footage. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing, yes, it's happening, Barack Obama scolds black men. He was pretty proud of doing so, I should say. Scolding black male voters for not showing up for Kamala. Is it misogyny? My numbers show no, that is not it. So we will get into the data, fam. We're also going to discuss Alan Dershowitz gets called out on Piers Morgan by Muhammad Hijab. And if you have not seen this discussion, this debate, it is so funny. Like, I wasn't even like 7 minutes in and I was already laughing because Muhammad Hijab really brings the heat. So I can't wait to get to that story. We're also going to discuss Joy Reid gets checked by her own guest. Yeah, seriously. This is a good one. And kudos to her guest for saying what he said. Again, I'm surprised they actually let him say that on corporate media. We're also going to discuss, if you have not heard by now, we do have new information about Grayzone journalist Jeremy Loffredo. I think that's the way you pronounce his name. Jeremy Loffredo was detained in Israel. I have updated information about that I want to get to you. Jeremy is a great journalist. He's been to Israel multiple times to cover what is happening over there, and it's crazy that he was detained and basically, imprisoned in Israel by the IDF. It's wild. It's a wild story, but we'll get into that. We're also going to discuss TD Bank is busted. This is the craziest story I think I've heard this week. So if you're familiar with TD Bank, I think you're going to get a laugh out of this story. And we have a bonus story, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the DNC is attacking Jill Stein with an attack ad. So this is the first time I think I've ever seen an attack ad from the DNC towards a third party candidate. So I think you know what that means. All right. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and smash that like button. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And we're going to go ahead and dive in and get started. Okay. This story, the Jeremy one, this is crazy. So Jeremy Loffredo, he's one of the journalists with the Grayzone. So you guys know Max Blumenthal and Aaron Monte. There's also Wyatt Reid. There's also Anya Parampil. And there's also Jeremy Loffredo. And Jeremy Loffredo has been on Katie Halper's show. I think he's also been on Kim Iverson's show as well to talk about what he has seen in Israel since October 7th. So this is not the first time he's ever gone to Israel. He's been there before, but this particular trip of his did not turn out well. So you may have seen some of the posts on Twitter from Max and Aaron letting people know that Jeremy Loffredo was detained in Israel. He was thrown into prison. And my biggest fear was, I've been talking about how the IDF operates since forever. And we've also been discussing what happens in those prisons in Israel. And my biggest fear is, oh my God, what are they going to do to him? Jeremy Loffredo is an American citizen. So there are calls to put pressure on the State Department to get him back here. Now, I want to start with this video here from Nico House because he summed this up very well. Israel has kidnapped Grayzone journalist Jeremy Loffredo and charged him with aiding the enemy during wartime. This is insane. This is another attack on free speech, and the way they're coming after journalists, I think everyone should be concerned. And Nico does this very well. Let's go ahead and get into this clip.
Grayzone journalist Jeremy Loffredo has been kidnapped by Israel. And I say kidnapped because there is no reason why any military or any police force in any country should be arresting a journalist for doing journalism. Now, Jeremy was taken into custody alongside 4 other journalists. Here you can see one of the journalists, Andre, said that he was beaten, kidnapped, blindfolded, and taken to a military base by the IDF alongside 4 other journalists.
See, this was my biggest fear, the way that they treat them, right? And again, like, Jeremy is American, but the IDF doesn't care, so this was my biggest fear when I found out about this.
They were held there for 11 hours and he was held without charges and had his phone confiscated. As of today, according to Kit Clarenberg of the Grayzone, they're trying to charge Jeremy Loffredo with aiding the enemy during wartime and providing information to the enemy following a hearing today. Do they have any evidence of that? Probably not. This is most likely retaliation because Jeremy has done a fantastic job reporting on the genocide that Israel has been committing in Gaza.
And I want to pause here for a second. So that's a picture. That's Jeremy Loffredo there. Again, American citizen, has been documenting what's happening over there in Israel and in Gaza. And of course, we talked about this before, how Israel has been targeting journalists, whether it's them trying to shut down Al Jazeera offices there or killing the press, members of the press that have gone over there to document what was happening in Gaza. They want to silence the source of information. They want to silence it because they don't want people to know what they're really doing. This is the first time that I've seen someone that I'm familiar with, who's a journalist, has been detained by them.
Reporting on the genocide that Israel has been committing in Gaza. And this is a part of a sinister pattern in Israel in the way that they treat journalists. For example, after October 7th, by October 16th, 2023, Israel had already killed 11 Palestinian journalists in Gaza. Now we fast forward to this article written in February 2024, and we learned that 75% of all journalists killed in 2023 actually died in Gaza by the end of that year. Nearly 100 of journalists and media workers were killed in Gaza. And as we all know, it wasn't just the journalists themselves who were targeted by Israel, but their families were being bombed while the journalists were out in the field covering the genocide. Now, we might unfortunately all expect for the United States to remain silent as journalists were being persecuted by Israel. However, Kamala Harris in a 60 Minutes interview just said that Iran is the U.S.'s greatest adversary just the other day. In her justification of that claim, she said it's because Iran has U.S. blood on their hands. But as a U.S. journalist is being physically and legally persecuted in Israel as we speak, Kamala Harris has said absolutely nothing. Not only has Jeremy and those 4 other journalists been persecuted by Israel, but they have plenty of American blood on their hands. This is well known, from volunteers to activists. So it's important for all of you guys to reach out, speak up, go to social media, call these numbers, get in touch with the State Department, do whatever you can to make sure that Jeremy Loffredo goes free. We can't expect these Zionists to stand up for us. We have to stand up for each other.
Yeah, so it's very scary. I am concerned now. I wanted to wait until we went live so I can check for a more recent update, because this story has been updating the past 48 hours, I want to say. So I do want to check. Aaron, I think Aaron Monte was the one who was posting more recently. I just want to check his status really quick to see if he has given an update about Jeremy as well, because I know that he was retweeting about it, and so was Max Blumenthal. I also think Max is also might be traveling. So here is an update here. Now, this is shared, retweeted by Aaron, and it's from Wyatt Reid. And he says, Israel has released journalist Jeremy Loffredo. So that's good. So here's an update. Jeremy has now been released, but they are withholding his passport until October 20th. So today is October 11th. The judge overseeing his case ordered him to remain in the country until then, while police comb his phone for evidence of anti-Israel activity. Now, this is where I get concerned again, because what is anti-Israel activity? That could be whatever they say it is. And Jeremy Loffredo is a journalist, an American journalist. He was detained. Now he has been set free, but he is not allowed to leave Israel. They're combing through his phone. And this is, again, another attack on journalism, on free speech. We don't know what happened to Jeremy while he was detained. We don't know if they did something to him. We just don't know. And we probably won't know anything until he gets back here in the United States. But the reality is, folks, we need to get him back here. This is very dangerous. And let me just go back one more here, just to see. Here we go. Yeah, Aaron Monte said Jeremy Loffredo's lawyer has confirmed that he has been released from jail, but for now, Israel is not allowing him to leave the country. More updates to follow. So here's what you can do, guys. If you can call this number, please call the U.S. Embassy in Israel to address your concerns. And that number is plus 011-972-2630-4000. That's 011-972-2630-4000. This is very serious. You can also email the U.S. Embassy in Israel at JerusalemACS@state.gov. And of course, it says here that Jeremy is an American journalist beaten and kidnapped by the IDF forces on October 9th. The U.S. State Department has yet to address Jeremy's detainment. And again, you guys know the Grayzone receives a lot of attacks because they don't repeat the State Department talking points. And unlike people like that you see a lot of times at these press conferences, people like Max and Aaron and Anya and Jeremy and Wyatt, they've been there. They've been to Israel and they're documenting things that, of course, corporate media is not showing you. So the Grayzone has always kind of had like a target on its back. And this makes me wonder, like, this is why they went after him, because these are investigative journalists and they're on their own. Like, they don't work for CNN. They don't work for, Fox News or ABC News or anything like that. But the fact that Jeremy has been beaten, it freaks me out. And I've never even met Jeremy, but from what I've seen, like I've talked to him back and forth on Twitter before via DM. But from what I've seen, when I've seen interviews of him on other people's shows, he seems like one of the most chill, laid back people. And I don't know, man. All I can tell you is we need to get him back home. And this can happen to anyone else. And I don't know. I think the thing that scares me also is this whole idea of he can't come back home until they say so. An American citizen. And this is what our government is supporting. This is the state of Israel that Kamala Harris is supporting. Biden, Trump, this is what they support. We've already seen and documented a number of stories of not just journalists, but American activists that have been killed in Israel. We talked about the Turkish American activist who was shot in the head by a sniper in the West Bank. The Biden administration, very quiet about this. And it's very telling. So I hope that Jeremy gets back here safely, and we'll just have to stay tuned. Very crazy times that we're living in, guys. Very crazy times. Phenomenal Mysticism says Zionism is a form of racism and foreign aid to Israel needs to end. Instead, the U.S. government needs to give domestic aid and resources to North Carolina because of the devastating hurricane. I agree with everything you said there, Phenomenal Mysticism. It's insane. This is insane. Let's go to some of the comments here. Teddy G said there is no evidence. An NPR journalist did the same thing and was not detained. Yeah. So it seems like this is a direct attack on the Grayzone. And like I said, like, they're very vocal about what Israel is doing. And this is not like, it's not an anti-Jewish thing. Max Blumenthal is Jewish. So is Aaron Mate. And I believe Jeremy may be also. But it's just scary. Scary, scary times. Oh, man. Oh, boy. We got to be careful out there, huh? Crazy stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead and get to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do the damn thing. This story is also spooky. It's about corruption. It's spooky, but we can't be surprised because banks can be corrupt. Banks can be corrupt. And apparently TD Bank is one of those banks that has been corrupt, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to hear what is happening with TD Bank? TD Bank has been found guilty of a money laundering scheme. Now, the Justice Department has been looking into TD Bank. Let's go ahead and get into this video here from Merrick Garland. This was on C-SPAN. This is crazy. A freaking bank.
And now to the subject of today's announcement. Today, TD Bank pled guilty to multiple felonies, including conspiring to violate the Bank Secrecy Act and commit money laundering. TD Bank has also agreed to a $1.8 billion criminal penalty, combined with civil enforcement actions announced today by other agencies the United States will be imposing a total of approximately $3 billion against TD Bank. TD Bank created an environment that allowed financial crime to flourish. By making its services convenient for criminals, it became one. Today, TD Bank became the largest bank in U.S. history to plead guilty to Bank Secrecy Act program failures and the first bank in history to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering. This is also the largest ever penalty under the Bank Secrecy Act and the first time the Justice Department has assessed a daily fine against a bank. As part of the plea agreement, TD Bank will fundamentally restructure its corporate compliant program at its U.S.-based bank, which is the 10th largest in the United States. The bank has also agreed to the imposition of a 3-year monitorship and a 5-year term of probation. While the bank has started its remediation, it will continue to remediate and improve its anti-money laundering compliance program to ensure that the bank operates lawfully and safely moving forward.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit more information than what was said there because this is a pretty huge story because it also talks about TD Bank, how they were involved with the cartel. Let's bring up this article here from CBS News. TD Bank to pay $3 billion after breaking U.S. money laundering rules. Again, it is a bank, a freaking bank. The more I read about this stuff, the more I think maybe James Brown was right. I'll tell you about that in a second. TD Bank will pay more than $3 billion in penalties after admitting that it failed to adequately guard against money laundering as well as violations of the Bank Secrecy Act, federal authorities said on Thursday. But let's get to the juicy part. TD Bank is the 10th largest bank in the U.S., and they failed to take action despite government regulators and the company's own internal auditors repeatedly pointing to potential issues with its procedures to detect suspicious transactions. This is what the agency has said. Between January 2014 and October 2023, TD Bank failed to monitor $18.3 trillion in customer activity, leading to extensive money laundering. Now let's see where that money went. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see where the money went, fam. Laundering drug money. In one scheme that lasted for more than 3 years, criminals gave TD Bank workers gift cards worth more than $57,000 to ensure the employees would process their transactions, including suspicious cash deposits in excess of $10,000. In another incident, a TD Bank employee in 2021 helped launder narcotics proceeds in exchange for bribes. Highlight this. A TD Bank employee in 2021 helped launder narcotics proceeds in exchange for bribes. There is so much corruption in this country. I mean, it's a bank. It's a bank. And I'm gonna tell you something else about this bank in a minute. Sorry, there's something hanging there. But it's a bank that obviously can't be trusted. And people have had their suspicions about banks, and it does remind me of what James Brown said. So Eddie Murphy made this statement a while back, and he said that he had a conversation with James Brown when he was first becoming big in Hollywood. And Eddie Murphy said that James Brown told him, when you get your money, take your money and bury it in the ground. Not kidding you. Like, I laughed when I heard Eddie Murphy say that, but he said, take your money and bury your money in the ground. He said that way they can't take your money. And I was like, who's they? And I'm pretty sure Eddie Murphy was wondering too, who's they, James? But it sounds like James Brown just did not trust the banks. So what? He goes on to say here, this is crazy. The worker opened numerous accounts, including for shell companies that allowed bad actors to funnel millions of dollars through the bank. Typical money laundering here. But a bank basically working alongside the cartel? Ay, ay, ay. Crazy stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy stuff. Tia says, can't blame him for not trusting the banks. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Oh my God. So the Justice Department said that they have charged 2 TD Bank employees in connection with the schemes. As part of the settlement, TD Bank will pay a fine of $1.8 billion to the Justice Department, $1.3 billion to FinCEN, and $450 million to the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, which regulates the money. So here's the thing. After all of this, it still sounds like TD Bank is going to be able to stay in business. Like, it doesn't sound like, they're shutting them down or anything like that. So there's that. And then I wonder about this, because as soon as I heard TD Bank, I thought about, but what about the TD Garden? Yeah, for those of us that live here in Massachusetts, there's the TD Garden, right? The TD Garden right here. This is where the Celtics and the Bruins play. It's owned by TD Bank. It's owned by the bank. Check this out. TD Bank and Delaware North extend the TD Garden naming rights through 2045. Now, this was reported in 2023 that they were going to extend the naming rights through 2045. And I'm just thinking about what just happened with TD Bank. And I'm wondering, are we going to keep this name? Are we going to keep it? Dwayne says TD Garden because they are sponsored by the bank. There you go. So, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that the name has changed. The name used to be at one point Boston Gardens, and it's the TD Bank, even though a lot of us, TD Garden, a lot of us just call it the Garden. But I'm wondering, because of the embarrassment here with TD Bank. I mean, it's not like, TD Bank, they couldn't account for money. It's TD Bank was laundering money and work with the cartel. So I wonder if they're going to change the name. But I want to show you a little bit here about this agreement here with them in Delaware North, because I thought this was interesting. Delaware North, the owner and operator of TD Garden, Boston's premier sports and entertainment arena, together with the venue's naming rights partner, TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. It was convenient, all right. So convenient that the cartel was able to get a part of it. Oh my God. This is bad. This is bad. It said they had announced a historic 20-year naming rights extension that keeps the beloved landmark and arena name as TD Garden through 2045. And here's an interesting part. TD Bank has been the exclusive naming rights partner of the storied Boston Garden Arena since July 1st, 2005. The agreement was set to expire in 2025, but this early naming rights extension adds another 20 years to the existing relationship. In addition, TD Bank has renewed its status as the official bank of the Boston Bruins through 2045. Let me highlight this part. Financial terms of the deal will not be disclosed. Might be time to disclose those financial terms. Oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, that was one of the things that I thought about when I saw this story. I was like, wait, like, aren't they the same people that own the TD Garden where the Bruins and the Celtics play? And a lot of concerts are at the TD Garden. Like, I've seen a number of concerts there, and it makes me think about some things. And I'm just like, I don't know, like, I saw The Weeknd there. I saw the Backstreet Boys there. I saw New Kids on the Block there. And now it's just the name. I don't know. Now, here's the thing that I want you to think about. So they are ordering TD Bank to pay billions, but they're not arresting anybody. And this is something I've pointed out again about the government and the Justice Department. They don't arrest these bankers. And we saw this in 2008 during the housing crisis. You know, I mean, yeah, they had them testify. They had bankers testify, but they didn't throw any of them in jail. So the bankers get another day to win. So this is something that I always like to point out to people, right? Because people will see it and they'll declare this as a win and they'll say, well, the Justice Department did a good thing and they went after them. But they're looking at the minimum. And the reality is that they're not arresting and jailing any of those bankers. Because let's be real, it's not like, oh, one employee did this, another employee did that, and nobody knew anything. We're talking what, billions? They said, well, no, they said trillions of dollars. We're talking, they said trillions of dollars. So how do you not account for trillions of dollars and nobody knows? Come on. That's a wild story. So if you just joined, this was a big one. TD Bank to pay $3 billion after breaking U.S. money laundering rules. Phew. Ay. Crazy stuff. Maybe James Brown was right. Put your money in the ground. Mike HW said, don't forget the Wells Fargo scam. Exactly. That's another one. Again, they're not jailing any bankers. Dwayne says TD Bank and HSBC. In 2012, HSBC Holdings, one of the world's largest global banks, was hit with a $1.9 billion fine for most notably serving as a conduit for Mexican drug cartels. Like, it just, the World's on Fire said, I closed my TD Bank account when I found out they had a hand in funding DAPL. Ooh. FM says no punishment, no changes in behavior. Yeah, that's a big one. Pluto's Moon said NKOTB Sabs, that's bad, but you saw Vanilla Ice. Oh man, we're going back. Old school. What is it, Social Danny? Sabby got the musical taste of a white teenage girl from 10 years ago. Hey, nostalgia. So a lot of people there. Ashura says, okay, now go after the banks of 2007. Exactly. But they'll go after the bankers because those bankers testified, but they didn't find them guilty. They weren't arrested, you know? Thank you, Cowpoke, for the super chat. As a Black man, I never bought the Obama grift. I saw what he was in 2007, slick. Corporate liar with a good smile. I was called the most vulgar names you can think of for it, but ended up being correct. Well, you know what, Cowpoke? You were ahead of a lot of us. That's for sure. Thank you, Janice. How many of the bank officers / owners are going to jail? That's what I'm saying. When are they breaking it up? Fines are useless. They can be written off as a business expense. Yes, crazy, man. Mima, I had a mother-in-law who just passed at 92. I'm sorry to hear that. She hid her money in gold, etc., in the walls. No joke. Yeah, I've heard of stories about this before where this is something that people have done like in the past, like hiding their money in other places and not trusting the bank. Eric Gray says James Brown and MJ knew what they were doing in terms of handling business. Interesting. Thank you, Shawa. Does anyone remember when JP Morgan had a ship seized that had 1.3 billion in cocaine on board in 2019? I did not know about that one. Although JP Morgan has had their share of troubles recently. Thank you, Epstein. Titty Bank, sign me up. TD Bank, TD. You guys got jokes tonight. Thank you, Trusting Success. Aren't most US and proxy wars basically money laundering schemes? I guess you could say that. That's a good point. Skylar goes, they're not going to change the name. They know people will forget in a week. Thanks, Marvin. TD paid $3 billion. How much money did they make? That's a good question. Good question. Natalie, JP Morgan Chase and Jamie Dimon laundered money for Jeffrey Epstein. That's right. I covered that story. I remember this. They've been hit with several big fines. And thank you, Kevin. Sabby, thanks for the info. RE, immigrants socialized to follow U.S. whites. My friend married a Brazilian girl, always obsessed with money. Now I know why. Oh, Kevin. Oh, Kevin. Okay, let me go over to Rockfin as well, because I think we have comments there. Just going ahead and bring that up. Yeah. Sorry about that. Just going to read this from Roger. Roger, thank you for the tip on Rockfin. You forgot 2012, HSBC laundered over $881 million from Mexico's Sinaloa and Colombia's Norte del Valle drug cartels. I'm fine with the fine as long as it goes towards the people who were wronged, but I want to know AG Garland, who's going to prison. I know I talk about public banks a lot, but that doesn't operate as a commercial bank, but infrastructure. I say reinstate postal banking to compete high interest savings, low interest loans. And thank you for this tip as well. Collapse of the Freedman Savings and Trust Bureau is origin. Why we don't trust banks. Oh, is the origin as to why we don't trust banks. Okay. And thank you for the super chat here, Roger, to tell me about Rockfin. Yeah. Eric will be back this coming week, you guys. So it's just the Sabby. I'm sorry you're stuck with me for a bit. I hope that's okay. It's just me. It's just me. I'll bust out with some Celine Dion up in here and be like, all by myself. Oh my God. Okay. If you haven't had a chance to do so, folks, go ahead and smash the like button. Now I'm starting to think what's his face said in the chat was true. My musical taste. Smash the like button. We're going over to the next story, and this is a good one. Case Study QB here doing the damn thing. So, Joy Reid recently had a guest on her show. His name is Peter Beinart. And they were discussing the crisis in Israel and Gaza, more so the genocide in Gaza. And I was really surprised because there's a number of things that he said here to Joy Reid on corporate media that I was like, oh boy, it's all coming out now. He's pointing fingers, and he was very vocal about this. The media's complicit actions with the pro-Israel narrative for quite some time. And then also he's going to point out something about the presidential candidates. And when it comes to the presidential election this November and how some of the Muslim voters are feeling overall. So I want to give a shout out to Case Study QB for this clip here, for doing the damn thing, Case, always keeping us informed. Let's get into this.
Joined now by Peter Beinart, MSNBC political analyst, editor-at-large of Jewish Currents, and author of the upcoming book, Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza. Peter, my friend, it is good to see you. You have a piece up that is entitled, and it's in The Guardian, entitled, "The Mainstream Media Has Failed Us After 7 October." Please explain.
Yeah, so I was surprised that he came onto corporate media to complain about how bad corporate media was with October 7th. So I was very shocked that he was allowed to come onto the show, number one. But number two, this is important. The mainstream media and how they failed. So listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, my point was that after the horrifying attacks of October 7th, there were a group of people, particularly Palestinians with roots in Gaza, who made a series of predictions which have turned out to be stunningly prescient. that the war would not bring the hostages back, that Israel would not defeat Hamas, that the war would destroy Gaza, and that it would lead to a wider war. Unfortunately, those folks didn't get much access to the mainstream media. The mainstream media, a little bit unfortunately, like it did after 9/11, it tended to put, there were obviously honorable exceptions, but in general, you had a lot of people who were close to power in Washington who tended to get a big platform, but not people who really knew Gaza very well. And as
Pause. I want you to hear again what he just said, because he's basically on corporate media, bashing poor corporate media. He's telling them that they did a poor job. So listen again.
Yeah, my point was that after the horrifying attacks of October 7th, there were a group of people, particularly Palestinians with roots in Gaza, who made a series of predictions which have turned out to be stunningly prescient. That the war would not bring the hostages back, that Israel would not defeat Hamas, that the war would destroy Gaza.
That the war would not bring the hostages back. And you know who did talk about that? Independent media. Independent media like myself, Grayzone, Katie Halper, Brianna Joy Gray, there's a number of us. We brought those voices on. We brought those voices on because corporate media was ignoring them, and they were right. It was very obvious, anyone who was paying attention, that the war itself was not going to bring the hostages back. So Peter is Jewish. Peter wrote this article that was published in The Guardian. So look at the look on Joy's face. Look at the look on her face. She's like, So if you look on the look on Joy's face, you can tell she's kind of like, oh, so he's basically telling me that we didn't do the right thing. Yeah, because you were a part of it, and not just MSNBC and not just that show. It was Fox News. It was CNN. It was all of corporate media. They had ignored those voices. We're talking about investigative journalists who were there, Palestinian journalists that were there, Palestinian Americans, etc. They ignored those voices, and that was on purpose. I told you about the article. I read the article right in front of you that was revealed from on The Intercept. The Intercept had exposed how CNN News had to run anything about October 7th and the war. They had to run that by the IDF in Israel. They had to run that by them. So I told you before, the corporate media was controlled. And a lot of these people, these commentators that you see, like Dana Bash and Wolf Blitzer, etc., Joy Reid, a lot of these people are just State Department mouthpieces. Now, with Joy Reid's show, she tends to go a little bit further than like Dana may go or Jake Tapper may go, but they're all just there to be mouthpieces for the State Department. So kudos to Peter for coming onto the show to tell them how they messed up.
And that it would lead to a wider war. Unfortunately, those folks didn't get much access to the mainstream media.
They didn't get much access to the mainstream media. He's talking to you, Joy. He's talking about you. He's talking about Dana Bash. He's talking about Jake Tapper. He's talking about, what's that dude's name on Fox News? That Jesse Waters. He's talking about all of you guys. He's not talking about us. He's not talking about independent media. He's talking about you guys. You guys purposely, for the longest time, you were ignoring not just Palestinian voices, but any voice, any, journalist that was talking about the other side of things. And you brought on IDF soldiers who had tormented kids, who was gleefully happy to kill children. They brought soldiers onto MSNBC who blatantly were lying to the people. A lot of people forget this. But when Mehdi Hassan was still on MSNBC, one of the last segments that he did was him interviewing the advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu. And he was pointing out the number of lies that he told, including that video footage that they showed on MSNBC, where there was an IDF soldier. His name was Jonathan. He's the guy that you see come on to Piers Morgan every now and then. That guy is a war criminal. And he was pointing at what was actually a calendar on the wall in the hospital. And he was saying, this is Hamas notes here and da-da-da. That was a calendar. And it was Mehdi Hasan who called that out when he was interviewing the advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu. And after that, Mehdi was gone. So yes, you guys need to take responsibility for what you have done.
The mainstream media, a little bit unfortunately, like it did after 9/11, it tended to put, there were obviously honorable exceptions, but in general, you had a lot of people who were close to power in Washington who tended to get a big platform, but not people who really knew Gaza very well. And as a result, I don't think we had the kind of public debate in the United States that would have served us well.
Yeah, and it seems that instead of debate, I feel like just from a journalistic point of view, if you just pull back, there's obviously the human tragedy. There are 100 people are still missing their people. There are 42,000 Palestinians dead. Every place you could possibly hide or run to is.
And that right there, still repeating a number that is incorrect. It is obviously, again, if you do the math, and if you would have spoken to any of these independent journalists, then you would have known that there's far more than 42,000. Just do the math. And I would tell you right now, if it was Israel that this happened to, do you think they would still keep that number under 50,000? No, they wouldn't. If anything, they probably would have exaggerated that number by now. So the math of the number of weapons that have been dropped and the density of Gaza, that number is higher. So this does not include the people who are still buried under the rubble. So she's still doing propaganda while he's calling out the fact that corporate media was doing propaganda.
It's been flattened. There's nowhere to live. There's just it's misery on all sides. And now the misery has spread to Lebanon. That's the human tragedy. But from a journalistic point of view, I feel like there was not an encouragement to examine. It's similar to 9/11, that we mustn't examine anything about this conflict other than one side is cartoonishly evil, one side is the good guy, and we just decide that. We don't even talk about, I don't know, we seem to not be able to even do the story and tell the story in a fulsome way. Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
That's your fault. It's your fault that you haven't done the story the way that it was supposed to be done.
Yes. Look, what Hamas did on October 7th was evil in that it targeted civilians in a really horrifying way. But if you want to fight against that violence, you can't do it effectively unless you understand that it's within a larger structure of the violence of oppression. And if you don't recognize that, put aside that morally you have an obligation. If you believe that all human life, all civilian life is precious, you have to believe that Palestinian life is precious too, which means the Palestinians deserve their freedom. But even strategically.
So let me pause here for a second. So he had to come onto corporate media and tell them to their face that you need to believe that Palestinian life is precious too. And you know what's crazy about this? He had to say it. He said it on a Black woman's show. And I think that is just very telling, because it just tells you at the end of the day, they're all looking out for the status quo. They're just going to repeat those talking points that the status quo has and what the State Department says. And that's really what they do. So it's crazy that he had to come on and tell them to their face. And he also had to tell them that you need to understand about the occupation, that you have to understand that these people have been occupied. These people have been oppressed. And if you don't tell that part of the story and you just continue to say, which Kamala Harris is still doing and Donald Trump is doing, that this all started on October 7th. It didn't all start on October 7th. But if you continue to repeat that narrative, it is going to be very difficult for people who are not doing their research to know more. Where the media failed this time with this particular situation is that they underestimated younger people. They underestimated the youth. They underestimated the college students, Gen Z, and some of us millennials. And they didn't realize that a lot of us knew what Israel was doing for quite some time, that we did not just realize this on October 7th. I was talking about this 3 years ago. So that's what they underestimated as well.
If you don't understand the context in which this October 7th attack happened, and if you can't distinguish between understanding and justifying, which are completely different things, you're not going to have an effective strategy. And in a different way, that's what happened to the United States after 9/11. We didn't have a good strategy for dealing with Iraq and Afghanistan because we didn't do the right analysis about why, in fact, those attacks had happened.
Right. Well, the fact that the media played along with the idea that Iraq had anything to do with it was actually a problem.
But you're the media. but you're the media. And you guys played along with this narrative. You had a pro-Israel narrative for the longest time. And honestly, had it not been for the independent journalists that were there, that were capturing the footage, had it not been for Al Jazeera that was capturing a lot of that footage in Gaza and sharing that information on Twitter or X, whatever you guys want to call it these days, a lot of people would have been in the dark. A lot of people would have been in the dark. And the videos that we saw on TikTok, the racist videos coming out of Israel on TikTok. And they had Joy Reid, they had her, a black woman, to sit here and to go along with that narrative. Now, Peter had to come onto the show to tell you, you messed up.
Problem too, but if that's a bigger question about the way we treat Arabs and Muslims as one sort of mush and not really understanding the individual cultures. Let me play 2 quick sound bites. Here's Trump first.
Yeah, that is an understanding, Joy, because you were the one, and I talked about this recently, you were the one that conflated Arab American and Muslim as one thing, because Joy was trying to exaggerate a poll. It was the Arab American poll. It wasn't the Arab American / Muslim voter poll. Those were two different things. And Joy was doing that. She was conflating the two. Not all Arab Americans are Muslim. There are Arab Americans that are Christian. There are Arab Americans that are non-religious. Like, that's just like pointing to black people and saying that we're all Christian. We're not. So she's kind of talking about herself there. Maybe Joy saw that clip.
Muslims as one sort of mush and not really understanding the individual cultures. Let me play 2 quick sound bites. Here's Trump first, and then I'm going to play Kamala Harris, both responding to this anniversary. Here's Trump.
I think they've shown a level of warfare that's been pretty amazing, whether you're for them or not for them. It's been amazing. Israel would be good. I think Israel has to do one thing. They have to get smart about Trump, because they don't back me. I did more for Israel than anybody. I did more for the Jewish people than anybody. And it's not a reciprocal, as I say.
So there's Donald Trump bragging about, I did more for Israel than anybody. Joe Biden was bragging about this recently, too. Joe Biden was saying that nobody has helped Israel more than me. Yeah, son, that's not a bragging point, fam. To both of you, that is not a bragging point. Are you tone deaf? Aye.
Must uphold the commitment to repair the world, an idea that has been passed on throughout generations of the Jewish people and across many faiths. And to that end, we must work to relieve the immense suffering of innocent Palestinians in Gaza who have experienced so much pain and loss over the year.
So do you notice what they did there? For both of those candidates, and again, this is them manufacturing consent. For both of those candidates, they didn't show the worst things that they said about this particular conflict. That statement there from Kamala Harris, that was from a while ago. They didn't show you what Kamala Harris said on the stage, the Democratic National Convention, that she unequivocally, supports Israel, that her support for Israel is unwavering. They didn't show you that part. And she said that more often than what she said right there when she read that piece of paper. They also didn't show you the worst of what Donald Trump has said when it comes to Israel, saying that, oh, Kamala's like a Palestinian and, they're bad people and really bad people, and calling them names and stuff like that. So what is their angle here? You see how they're actually trying to show propaganda while they have Peter on there calling them out about the propaganda. Listen to this.
The Vice President Harris expressing empathy. She and her husband planted a pomegranate tree in memory of those who were lost on October 7th. Donald Trump said, hey, here's some good real estate here. And also it's about me and it's all about himself. Comment on that if you would like, but also just about whether going forward, you know what? Just comment on that if you'd like. We have 15.
So now Joy is trying to get him to decide whether or not he thinks Kamala or Donald Trump is the lesser of two evils. You see how she's trying to slide this in here? Listen to what Peter says.
Good for Kamala Harris for showing genuine empathy and talking about Palestinians as human beings. But people are not going to take you seriously in that rhetoric if you keep on providing unconditional weapons, the same weapons that are killing people in Gaza and killing people in Lebanon.
What did he say? Let's go back again, because I don't think this is what Joy expected him to say. Listen to him.
Pomegranate tree in memory of those who were lost on October 7th. Donald Trump said, hey, there's some good real estate here. And also it's about me and it's all about himself. Comment on that if you would like, but also just about whether going forward, you know what? Just comment on that if you'd like. We have 15 seconds.
Good for Kamala Harris for showing genuine empathy and talking about Palestinians as human beings. But people are not going to take you seriously in that rhetoric if you keep on providing unconditional weapons, the same weapons that are killing people in Gaza and killing people in Lebanon. If the words are going to mean something, they have to be followed by actions.
Peter Beinart, my friend, thank you so much. I always appreciate talking with you. And that is tonight's readout.
Did you catch what he said there at the end? Well, that's nice that Kamala showed some empathy, but people are not going to take you seriously if you're still providing the weapons to the same people that you're saying like are killing those people. So she literally tried to do some type of propaganda there while he was there to call out the propaganda. Like, I really couldn't. And I've seen some things, but that one I really just couldn't get past. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Gotta be kidding me. And there's another one, and I want to point this out. Shout out to Omar Badar, who I had him on the show also. Great guy. I want to show you something else that happened on corporate media too, where they're being called out. So it's not just her show. It was also on CNN. Watch this as well. So you're going to hear from some of the people that have been in Gaza. Listen to this.
This humanitarian crisis with the additional factor of Gaza is about to enter the winter, which often brings heavy rain to the region.
So she just referred to it as a humanitarian crisis. Okay. Listen to what the young woman on the left says.
Kate, in all honesty, a humanitarian crisis is what you deal with when you have a hurricane, what you deal with when you have an earthquake. You have an insult and a humanitarian response. This is my career. This is what I do for a living. Every single person who does this for a living will tell you the same thing. This is different. This is not a humanitarian crisis. Kate, and I'm going to say it very clearly for your viewers to hear, this is genocide. When 70% of the population that are killed are women and children, when the population is starved of food, of water, of medicine, when you have attacks, repeated attacks on all the hospitals, the clinics, the aid distribution sites, the humanitarian aid agencies that try to help. More UN workers have been killed in Gaza than in UN's history. When you have over 900 families that have been exterminated, that have been taken off of the civil registry, killed. When you have over 17,000 children that have lost one or both parents. When you have bakeries, aid distribution sites, churches, mosques, schools, and in the last 3 days, in the last 24 hours, in fact, a hospital today that was bombed, as you just reported, the hospital where I personally was working, and I can tell you, they are working every second of every day to try and sustain life when Israel's strategy and evidence on the ground suggests that they're doing the exact opposite. They were targeted today. There was a rehabilitation center that was targeted in the last 24 hours, and there was an orphanage that was targeted earlier this week. These are the types of places that are being targeted. And so it's really hard to hear it over and over and over again, framed in the way that it's being framed in the media, which frankly, Kate, is very misleading. It is very misleading.
So she's also calling out the media. She said it's very misleading. And Kate is there in the middle like, oh, misleading, huh?
365 days of this. Death tolls that are so far outdated. We have no idea how many people are killed, but I am genuinely afraid about what we're going to find out when the dust settles. History books will be written on this, and countries will have to reckon, media agencies will have to reckon with their major role in the genocide of an entire population and in the destruction of humanitarian law and rule of order.
She said the media agencies will also have to reckon with this. So that's CNN and MSNBC, two different networks, but guests calling them out about the propaganda and the lies that they've told about this war in order to satisfy the State Department. It's very unsettling, but these are the things that need to be said. So Peter has been on MSNBC before, so he'll probably be invited back on again. I think, I don't know. Not sure about the UN doctor though. Not sure about the UN doctor, but those are the things that need to be said. And had CNN and MSNBC and Fox News as well been doing their damn job, and had those commentators actually did reporting on the facts and not just repeating the talking points from the State Department, these things wouldn't have to be said. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Johnny Boca. Thank you for always sticking to what you stand for. You're a rock for us real leftists. Oh, thank you, Johnny. Thanks, Regine. Thank you for all that you do. I am so blessed to have you. Did I miss Florida Ballot Initiative, Dr. Jill Stein? Florida Ballot Initiative will be this coming week. I'm on Colorado right now. So after Colorado, I believe Florida was next on my list. That's a good one too. There's important ones on the Florida one as well. Mr. Lolith says, Peter was my ex-husband's high school classmate. Pretty good guy. Interesting. Well, it's a small world. It's a small world. Thank you, Wendy. Mainstream media never cared about kids killed by Western Empire. There it is. Thank you, Jasmine. And liberals wonder why we won't vote for Harris. She is a warmongering hypocrite, no better than Trump. And thank you, Trusting Success. Joy dismissed Peter immediately after he called out Kamala. Her smirk was gone. Yeah. And just like that, Joy wasn't smiling no more. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was crazy to me how she tried to slide that in there too. I'm like, and here you are with the propaganda. Okay, we are moving on to this crazy Obama story. I don't know how everyone here feels about Barack Obama, but this is someone that I really admired when he ran for president in 2008. I had a lot of hope that Barack Obama was going to make a change. So he was running as a change candidate. And I was incredibly wrong about Barack Obama. And since then, I have been very cautious about presidential candidates, particularly those that say all the right things and move. It seems like they're moving all in the right ways. And Barack Obama wasn't just a great speaker. He was also very charismatic. And so I have become more cautious because of Barack Obama. So I have to start with that first. And now Barack Obama is trying to help Kamala Harris on her campaign trail, particularly recently in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And for some reason, he thinks that his best way of doing that is by scolding Black men. Because Kamala Harris is not doing well with Black male voters compared to her counterparts. And I will show you those numbers, right? So he appears to what is supposed to be a Kamala campaign event. And I just want you to hear the way that he speaks to everyone in the room, but what he says to the men, to the Black men. Listen to this.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running.
So he's saying we're not seeing, let me go back a little bit because I want to turn up the volume. Thank goodness for the captions, but hold on.
Same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running.
So Barack Obama is there to tell them that we're not seeing the same type of turnout with the Black community for support for Kamala Harris the same way that we did when I was running. Gee, I wonder why. Part of this is on Kamala Harris, but part of this is also on you, Barack Obama. Because honestly, the reason why every other a person of color candidate that comes after you is going to be met with a side eye by a lot of people is because of you. And you talked a good game when you were campaigning and you said, yes, we can. And it's time for hope and change. But the moment that you got into the White House, you showed us you were no different than the people who came before you. You were more willing to go along with what the Republican Party wanted. You wanted to be in the center of things, even though you ran on some populist messages at that point in time, which is what won over a lot of us younger voters. The point that I'm trying to make is this: the bar has been raised. So now any other candidate that comes after Barack Obama, whether it's Bathtub Greens Kamala Harris, whether it's, who else was thinking about running at one point? I think it was the governor of Maryland, whether it's whoever else comes after you, that is a person of color that tries to say they're a Black American, whatever. We can go down that road. We did that. We already done that on the show. They are going to have a much harder time than you because you screwed up. You have made it so much more difficult and harder for the person who comes after you. This is why sometimes it's not good to be first. And if you look at the numbers, you will see that since Barack Obama's presidency, no other presidential candidate has been able to garner the same amount of Black voter support since his presidency. Black voter support for the Democratic Party decreased since Barack Obama. Now let's go on, because he's going to scold Black men.
Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
More pronounced with the brothers. So more pronounced with Black men. Okay. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think it is misogyny? Because I have data that shows it's not. What do you think it is? Why do you think it is that more Black men are not supporting Kamala Harris? Because I can give you a couple of reasons. Number one is the economy. Number two is immigration. And I can say these things to people that are Democrats, and a lot of them don't want to hear it. The vote blue, no matter who, people don't want to hear it. They just want you to shut up and get in line and support the person that they tell you to support. So here's Barack Obama to scold Black men. And what kills me is the way he says it. He kind of has this approach as though like he's their dad or something. I'm like, who are you? You walk into the room like you're their dad and they need to be reprimanded.
So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you.
She didn't grow up like us. She doesn't, and I'm not a Black man, but I'm Black. She didn't grow up like us. He's going to go on to say understands the struggles and the. She doesn't. She didn't. We don't have. So it just, how many of you were in a family for talking to Black guys real quick? How many of you were in a family where both your father and your mother were in PhD programs? And she can't help where she came from, but let me make a point. Were in PhD programs. Your father taught at Stanford University, top school, private institution. You were able to go live in Montreal and go to one of the best schools in Montreal. And then you were able to, how many of you grew up that way? If you grew up that way, let me know in the chat. Just type in, I did. If you didn't, say, I didn't. So you see, this is the problem with the Barack Obamas and the Kamala Harrises. They're not like us. And I'm not trying to be mean, and people will hear that and they'll take it the wrong way. But no, we did not grow. Most of us did not grow up that way. My parents didn't have a college education. And in fact, a lot of the people that I grew up with, their parents didn't have a college education either. I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. Did she really grow up like us? No, she didn't. And that's fine. But don't say that. I don't get this. I don't get it.
Understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. Who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
And I'll go to the second part. But first of all, again, to point something else out. No, like they came here already with money. Her mom was from a higher caste system. She had money to pay for PhD program. So what do you mean she knows the same struggle? She doesn't. Her family didn't go through Jim Crow. My family did. Her family wasn't didn't have to do the Great Migration. My family did. My parents, my grandparents migrated from the Carolinas to Baltimore because that's where the jobs were. Her family didn't do. What do you mean? That's not true. If you want people to vote for Kamala Harris, you need to come up with better talking points instead of she grew up like you, because she did not. In fact, and here's another thing, which a lot of times people won't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you. Okay. When I was in high school, the high school that I attended at the time was the only high school within that area. And because it was the only high school, we had a lot of students at the school. Later on, they built a high school called Jack Britt. This is in North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina area. But at the time, they didn't have Jack Britt. So because of that, we had people that attended my high school that were from different income. There were some really rich kids that went to my high school, but there were also poor kids that went to my high school. And you know what I noticed? Because this was the first time I had seen this actually when we moved to North Carolina. This was the very first time that I went to school with poor white kids. Some of those poor white kids that I went to school with, while some of us lived in homes, they lived in the trailer park. They didn't grow up like Kamala Harris. And I still keep in touch with some of them today. Thank goodness for Facebook, because I moved around a lot. But I still keep in touch with some of them today. And they are the ones that have the blue collar jobs. And they are the ones that feel that they were neglected and left behind politically in this country. And especially by the Democratic Party. These are people that were Democrats when I was in high school. They're not Democrats now. That's because the party changed. The party moved away from that and it became the party of the academic elite. So the problem with the Democratic Party is you guys keep putting these people in front of us that you say represent us, but they don't represent a lot of us. They don't represent a lot of us at all. And it just, this is the thing. Barack Obama, too, the way you grew up, a lot of us did not grow up that way. And even for me, the only reason I was able to attend school abroad is because my parents were military. Other than that, I would have been growing up in Baltimore, Maryland, just like my parents did. So you have to understand, we did not grow up that way. A lot of us did not. Who are you talking to? Here's the second part.
You found out was just making stuff up. you'd at least give him a talking to. And you sure won't put him in charge of anything. So, you know, I didn't mean to get so serious. But when I hear about this stuff, I start feeling like we don't have enough of a sense of what's at stake here. These aren't ordinary times, and these are not ordinary elections. You're lucky Michelle's not here.
He said, be glad Michelle's not here. So again, these are the people that are supposed to be out there trying to get the voters in the campaign. So he's telling them we're not where we're supposed to be. And I told you guys that they were the polls that corporate media is showing you, what they're showing you, corporate media. I told you the support that they're showing you for Kamala Harris is exaggerated. I've been telling you guys this since day one, because I know, because I have my ear to the ground, because I talk to people on the ground. They don't. So there's that, right? So now they're finally admitting like, we're not where we need to be. And we're definitely not where we need to be with black men. So he's like, so that needs to change. What are you doing? What are you thinking? What are you? Economy and immigration. Top two issues for a lot of black male voters. Economy and immigration. You have a candidate out here running on, I'm not Donald Trump. Second of all, nobody voted for her in the Democratic Party primary because she didn't run in the Democratic Party primary. So you guys just put this person out there that was selected, and now you're mad because she's not getting the same numbers that Barack Obama got, that Hillary Clinton got, that Joe Biden got. You just created this person. Nobody, and this cannot be said enough. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris in the Democrat Party primary. And the fact that more progressives are not saying this is absolutely ridiculous. The same people who were angry about the DNC cheating Bernie Sanders twice are silent about the fact that Kamala Harris was simply selected, and everybody's just supposed to go along with this like it's no big deal. That is a problem. LaShondra says, Sabby don't like the educated. I am educated, Sabby. I mean, LaShondra. I said Sabby. I am educated, LaShondra. But I don't like this turning away from people who are poor, who are lower income. I'm so sick of them talking about Goldman Sachs. I'm sick of them talking about, I went to Harvard, I went to Stanford, I went to Yale. Who gives a damn? The majority of Americans will never have that experience. The majority of Americans don't care what school you went to. But that is what the Democratic Party has become. So they threw this person in front of you, and they want you to just take this person in, give them a big hug, and go out there and vote for them. She's not even running on any real damn issues. You're just supposed to go vote for her because she's a woman and she says she's a black woman. A couple years ago, she said she was an Indian woman. Get out of here. I wasn't born yesterday. I don't care what color she is. Nobody would even be talking about this right now if you guys didn't push it. You pushed that narrative. You could have just said, Biden's going to step aside. We're going to have an open primary, which apparently Barack Obama, you wanted. You wanted an open primary. You didn't even want to come out and readily endorse Kamala Harris, but you sitting there to scold other people for not coming out to support her? You wanted an open primary. All these people just go along with what the donor class want. And I'm going to tell you something else. Barack Obama, you ain't got the same kind of pull that you used to have, bud. Because now you don't bring that same type of energy anymore because people see that you're a fraud. Because people know what you did to the black community when you were president. And don't ever come at me and say, oh, well, you just giving him a hard time. No. Maybe part of the reason why people are more skeptical of this candidate that you guys selected and just put out there is not just because of her record. It's not just because she's a part of the current administration that's been part of the problems. It's not just because she wants to give unwavering support to an apartheid genocidal state. It is also because during your presidency, you sat right there and you bailed out Wall Street instead of the American people, and Black wealth tanked under your presidency. So excuse me, if we are not willing to sit up there and just smile at any other person that you put in front of us, that you say is one of us, and go along with it. Get out of here.
She really talking serious about this stuff. So, but here's the good news, right? The good news is that not only as Attorney General and as a senator and as a vice president and now as the nominee for the Democratic Party, Kamala has made us proud. She has been out there. If you got that, I hope y'all watched the debate because that wasn't close.
This is
that
sad.
Was like Mike Tyson. Back in the day, you know, it was like, oh man, stop that now. So we know she can do the job.
Do we?
And she's got an outstanding partner in Tim Walz. And so we can take pride and feel good about the nominee. This isn't just a matter of.
Okay, so as you can see, there is some struggle there, right? And this is why they bring Obama out, and he brings it up, and you're going to see the frustration here when he spoke at this rally here in Pittsburgh as well. He's really frustrated because Donald Trump is starting to pull ahead, and I warned you guys that this would happen. Now, this still doesn't mean, and I got to say this because people like to clip my stuff and try to do little sound bites. I got to say this. This still doesn't mean that she cannot win. But when I show you these numbers, what you're going to see is that she has a long way to go to secure a win, right? Listen to this.
It's been one of the most disturbing aspects of this election season about Trump's rise in politics is how we seem to have set aside the values that people like Dan stood for and Bob stood for and that I was taught.
So here's another problem. Now it's all about values. So Barack Obama still thinks this is 2008. It's not. It's 2024. And people are poor and people are broke and people have been evicted. The homelessness rate has increased and the minimum wage hasn't changed in years. You guys don't even know how to run on the economy. You know why? Then this is going to be a problem for Kamala Harris because she's a part of the current administration. So if they would have had a true, real, open 2024 Dem primary, that could have been avoided. You had candidates that were running through the Democratic Party that were running against Joe Biden, and the DNC shut it down. RFK, Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson, not my picks. But the DNC said, no, Joe Biden is our candidate. That's how you got in this situation. And now you want people to just take whatever you have thrown in front of us. Kamala Harris wasn't a strong candidate when she ran for president in 2020. That's why she didn't go far in the Dem primary that time. So this time you let her skip the primary and you just make her the nominee. And now he sounds like he want to cry because he can't figure it out. I don't understand what's happening here. How is it even like this again? How is it possible that Trump even has a chance now? I don't understand this at all because you guys never fix the core issues. And even under your presidency, we want to go back to this Roe v. Wade thing. Barack Obama ran on codifying Roe v. Wade, said it would be the first thing that he did when he got into office. Won the White House, decided to change his mind. No, I am not going to pursue that. I am not going to do that. Tried to put the blame on Joe Lieberman. But Ro Khanna told me on this show himself that Barack Obama could have ended the filibuster And that's how you would have been able to codify Roe v. Wade into law. So that would have never happened. Does everybody get this? That would have never happened. He can't figure it out. He's like, how the hell did we go from me to Trump, then back to the Dems with Biden to here it is, Trump and Kamala are neck and neck. And I'm going to tell you, I believe in some of these states, I don't think it's neck and neck. I think that Trump is further ahead in Michigan than what they're telling you. Trump voters are underpolled. But the reality is it's because of you. We're back here, Barack Obama, because of you. You gave us Donald Trump. You let black wealth take under your presidency because you wanted to bail out Wall Street. Obamacare was a freaking disaster. Let's just keep it real. Did I expect you to fix everything? No, but I also didn't expect you to go to Flint, Michigan and sit up there and pretend to drink the dirty water in front of a room of black people, then get back on your plane and hop back to DC. That's how we got here. You guys avoiding the working class, and you want to be around all your Wall Street and your Harvard buddies and walking away from the everyday people. God damn it. Even Bill Clinton got this right. Even Bill Clinton reached out to working class people. You guys couldn't even figure that out. Hillary Clinton couldn't even figure out to campaign in the West Belt. Hillary Clinton couldn't even follow what her own husband did for campaigning strategies. And then she want to point fingers at Jill Stein and everybody else. No, it's you. That's how we got here.
Those didn't used to be Republican Democratic values. I mean, it used to be we'd have arguments about tax policy or foreign policy, but we didn't have arguments about whether you should tell the truth or not. We didn't make excuses for people who just violated basic norms of treating people fairly and with respect. I mean,
now he sound like he want to cry.
Just last week, I talked about this. We had one of the deadliest hurricanes in American history. The beautiful town of Asheville, North Carolina, one of my favorite places in the country. Spent time there. Amazing people. Devastated. Hundreds of people killed. And President Biden and Vice President Harris were down there meeting with local officials and comforting families, asking how they could help. And Donald Trump at a rally just started making up stories about the Biden administration withholding aid from Republican areas and siphoning off aid to give to undocumented immigrants. Just made the stuff up.
You made up things too, Obama. And Kamala's been making up things and Biden's been making up things too. All of y'all been lying about October 7th. All of you guys have been lying. But let's get back to what happened in North Carolina in the hurricane. Yeah, people died. People are unhoused and people need help. And the Biden administration gave billions to Israel. Let's talk about that. Zelensky walks into this country and can walk out with a check just like that. So who are you? What are you doing? Donald Trump is not in office right now. Biden is in office and Kamala Harris is the vice president. You pointing fingers at Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not in office right now. It shouldn't even be, it should have never even been this close. Should have never even been. If the Biden administration was doing such a great job, there is no way that Donald Trump would even be polling the way that he's polling right now. He's polling that way because they're not doing a great job. And me saying that doesn't mean I support Trump. I don't. I am voting for Jill Stein. But I can also see the writing on the fucking wall, which shows me that people need money. People need a living wage. People need affordable housing that they can actually pay for. People want the genocide to stop. This isn't happening under Donald Trump. This is happening under the current administration.
Everybody knew it wasn't true. Even local Republicans said it was not true. And now the people of Florida are dealing with another devastating storm. And I want you to watch what happens over the next few days, just like the last time. You're going to have leaders who try to help, and then you have a guy who will just lie about it to score political points, and this has consequences. Because people are afraid, and they've lost everything, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I apply for help?
Why do they have to even apply for help in the first damn place? Okay, we've been here before. When this was happening after Hurricane Katrina under George W. Bush, Democrats were criticizing George W. Bush administration, and rightfully so. But now that this is happening under a Democrat administration, people not allowed to criticize it. So the partisanship irks me.
And some of them may be discouraged from getting the help they need. The idea of intentionally trying to deceive people in their most desperate and vulnerable moments. And my question is, when did that become okay?
After your presidency? Was that too mean? Was that too harsh, guys? Was that bad? Not good timing? Seriously, after his presidency, that's when it became okay.
I'm not looking for applause right now. I want to ask Republicans out there, people who are conservative, who didn't vote for me, who didn't agree with me. I had friends who disagreed with me on every issue. When did that become okay? Why would we go along with that? I mean, if your coworkers acted like that, they wouldn't be your coworkers very long. If you're in business and somebody you're doing business with just outright lies and manipulates, you stop doing business with them.
Businessmen lie and manipulate all the time, Barack Obama. I don't know what you were talking about, but you can see what's happening here, right? Like, obviously, you can see the pain in his face. Him here trying to help Kamala Harris with her campaign. And I'm going to show you some numbers because I really don't like this whole thing about people saying that it's misogyny. We'll get to the numbers in a second. Charles Preston said something, and I think this is important. During Obama's years in office, there were multiple mass shootings and viral police killings. Not once did Obama lecture police officers or white males. His hallmark is using his identity to denigrate Black men publicly because everyone loves it. Right? This is a very important point. Very important point. Everyone, I think people forget this sometimes, not everyone, but I think people forget that when we talk about Black Lives Matter movement, that started under Barack Obama's presidency, not under Donald Trump's. And he's the one that militarized the police and sent them into Ferguson. Did policing get better under Barack Obama? Did police stop shooting and killing unarmed Black men under Barack Obama? No, not at all. And Nina Turner is even giving him a warning about this. Now, she was on CNN earlier sounding the alarm.
They need to appeal to the needs of the voters. And so when I was a delegate for President Obama in both of his elections in Ohio, right now the vice president is down 11 points in Ohio, even though I fully expect President Trump to take Ohio as he did twice, but to be down 11 points compared to President Biden, that is a problem. But this other issue I want to bring up is a problem too. Why are Black men being lectured to? Why are Black men being belittled in ways that no other voting group? Now, a lot of love for former President Obama, but for him.
That's where she loses me there. The part where she says she has a lot of love for Barack Obama. I don't, again, because the way that Barack Obama's economic policies and decisions during his presidency really hurt the Black community. And a lot of the people that lost their homes during the 2008 housing crisis were Black elders who never got their homes back, and their homes were bought by BlackRock. I don't like the fact that Barack Obama went to Flint, Michigan and pretended to drink dirty water in front of a room of Black people that were suffering because of the water. So I don't know why she says that. I don't have a lot of love for him, but listen to this other part.
To single out Black men is wrong. And some of the Black men that I have talked to have their reasons why they want to vote a different way. And even if some of us may not like that, we have to respect it. So unless President Barack Obama is going to go out and lecture every other group of men from other identity groups, my message for Democrats is don't bring it here to Black men who, by and large, don't vote much differently from Black women.
So that is a good point there that she's pointing out. Why are you not lecturing other groups as well? Why are you doing this towards Black men? And so a lot of people point to it's misogyny. It's misogyny is the reason why Black men don't want to support Kamala Harris. I'm going to show you some numbers that show you that's not the case. Because when we look at the data, because you know me, I had to pull up the graph. We got to go to the charts. Let's go back to the last time a female was the Dem nominee. That was 2016 with Hillary Clinton. I want to show you again, when we look at the demographics, of course, blue is Hillary, red is Trump. Let's go to Black men. Notice 81% of Black men voted for Hillary Clinton. 81%. 14. Now you'll see there's some of them did vote for Trump. You'll see that. But Hillary was able to get 81% of the Black male vote. Why is that a problem for Kamala? According to that NAACP poll, Kamala Harris is below that with Black men. She does pretty well. She's in the 70s. I remember she's in the 70s with Black male voters over 50, but for Black male voters under 50, she's in the 60s. So she's not even at, according to the NAACP poll, she's not even at 80% with Black men. Hillary Clinton received over 81% of the Black male vote. So if it is misogyny is the reason why Kamala's not doing well with Black male voters, why did those guys vote for Hillary Clinton? Maybe it's just Kamala. People don't like it when you bring back these old numbers, and see, they can do this on CNN. They can show you exactly what I'm showing you, how she did, how she performed. She had 98% support from Black women, 65% from Hispanic men, 67% from Hispanic women. So I'm going to show you what has changed, though. The struggle with the Democratic Party is this group here, the non-college grad, that has moved over more in favorable to the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party, which I said before. You guys bailed on the working class people, the everyday Joe Schmoes. And the Democratic Party here, as you'll see, are picking up a lot of college graduates among non-white college grads right here. And she had, I said that backwards. Yeah, non-college grad. Right? And then college grads. But you'll notice that Trump got more of that support from non-college grads. So these are things that people need to take into consideration. And when I tell you that the hype for Kamala Harris, I keep telling you it was manufactured. I want you to hear what Michael Tracy explained on Glenn Greenwald's show. Kamala Harris was at this Latino voter town hall, which apparently was supposed to be, according to Michael Tracy, because he was there, it was supposed to be Latino voters that were undecided. Listen to this.
Oh, there's actually one clip that we do have that we're going to play. I think the one that you wanted, but the rest are going to go on locals just because there's a lot of them we can't show. All right, well, let's play this clip that Michael's yapping about.
Yeah, I was decided before, but a lot of people just wasn't.
So you were already decided before you came?
It was very... yes.
You were? Okay. So were you an undecided voter, or did you know?
I already know I was going to go for Kamala before then, and now that just kind of like solidified it. So I'm already convinced.
So you weren't undecided. So you're going to vote for her even before you went to that.
That's part of the reason why I wanted to go was just like to also fully, support her.
Okay.
By the way, did you chide him for mispronouncing her name because that bolsters white supremacy, or did you let that go?
I was too transfixed on his bombshell admission that he was already a Kamala
No, it is
Harris
amazing
supporter,
that they build this as a town hall.
So does everybody hear this?
For undecided voters, and he said, not only had I already decided in advance that I was going to vote for Kamala, I specifically came to give her support.
So that was manufacturing consent. So those people were not undecided. Those were people who already supported Kamala. So you see how the media manufactures consent? You see the amount of propaganda that they're putting out in front of you? I told you, I tried to warn people. So Barack Obama, you screaming and getting frustrated because black men are not coming out to support Kamala Harris the same way they supported you. You're part of the problem. We know Kamala's part of the problem, but you're also part of the problem. So there's that. And you ain't got it like you used to have it. And black men don't owe you anything. They don't owe you their vote. Nobody owes a candidate their vote. This is what happens when you continue to take certain demographics for granted for so long. This is what happens. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you, Emily. Damn, how much truth do people want? Thank you, Artie. From candidate Hope and Change to Prez Mitt Romney. I know, right? And H says Obama is condescending. Yeah, buddy. He don't live in the real world like the rest of us. Thank you, Jay. Sabs, it has nothing to do with identity, but it has everything to do with her record and policies. We don't like her because of what she did and what she stands for. Call it out again, JB. Thank you, Artie. A rich black man can be just as racist as Whitey. Did you say Whitey? Artie, did you really say Whitey? Thank you, Trusting Success. Why did Obama's accent change like Kamala? You better thank a union member. I'll never get rid of the union member thing. Thank you, Jay. I can't believe I respected this man at one point. This mofo doesn't speak for me. We vote for who the hell we want. I'm voting for a woman, just not the one he wants me to vote for. What crap? I hear you. Thanks, Blueser. Barack, the jig is up, man. Take that smooth talk on. We can read. Thank you, Blueser. Thank you, Chris. Since when is growing up like you a policy position? The way black men have been demonized is not only infuriating, it's insulting. I almost wrote Obama a letter in 2008 because he inspired me. It's crazy when we look back on it, right, Chris? Right? Thank you, Blueser. It's crazy watching a black man trying to lead our children into the lion's den for slaughter. Thanks, Wendy. It seems that every presidential candidate is willing to sell out to the deep state. Yep. Thanks, Cooper. Why do Harris supporters always insist on her victimhood? Is it a prerequisite for the job? Well, they did that too when Hillary was running as well. Thank you, Jasmine. I hope there's a mass black migration from these parties to third parties because F this guy. Thanks, Samud. The handle, let me educate you and check your privilege are for Kamala, but block me when I spit facts. It's cringe. I don't know what that's about, but what's up? Thank you, Mike X. Sabby, you are the Idea B. Wells of the 21st century. Oh, no. I'm not an idea. I'm not Ida B. Wells. I appreciate the compliment, but I'm not to that level, but thank you. Thank you, Eric. Meanwhile, the rise of black radicalism and specifically black anarchic radicalism continues. Exactly. Thank you, Samad. Doug Imhoff loves being tagged in IG stories. LOL, do it. What? Thanks, Tates. Obama massacred many Yemen civilians. And Libya. Thanks, Jay. I'm tired of them talking about middle class when most Americans are working poor, 30K or less. That's a big problem. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is what happened when you move over towards the party that is the academic elite of Goldman Sachs. Like, they're not focused on the working class anymore. Thank you, Carlette. My voting days have expired after Obama's first term. As a USAF female veteran and a Black woman, I don't condone the utter disrespect he levied against Black men. Obama is the Antichrist. Interesting. Thank you, Samad. So Obama's letting the fam move in then, right? Thank you, Stop Sniffing Kids, Joe. Although I can't see what that says. I think it says OBJ or something. Thank you for that. Thank you, Samad. They are going to try and unalive Big T again before the date. FYI, IMO. Big T? Oh, you're talking about Trump. Thank you. Where's the love? Barry and Michelle can go kick rock. Steinware 2024. I'm right there with you, son. Laricia, drop the theme for yourself because you cooked Obama. Thank you, Courtney. Sabby, your facial expression looks like what I was thinking the whole time Obama was speaking. In, please. I know, right? Thank you, Gypsy. Sabby, you are cooking. Thank you, Kaime. I had to pull up the graph. Thank you, Locked Vegan. Yes, Sabs. Love it when you preach and do enjoy the way you say, get out of here, get out of here. You've convinced me weeks ago to vote for Steinware in Arizona. Awesome. Base. Thanks, AB. I voted for Hillary. It's not misogyny. Thank you, YouTuber. Don't forget to like this video to support Sabby. Yeah, smash the like. And Killer Tomato, Obama codified Bush's murder policies, not Roe v. Wade. That's a good point. And thank you, Willis. Black, I think that's a symbol that doesn't show up well on StreamYard, but Black people don't owe no one nothing. We're owed. Thank you. Thank you, Willis. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, smash that like button if you haven't had a chance to do so, fam. And let's go ahead and dive into the next story. This is a bonus story. So you've seen that Barack Obama is out there trying to help Kamala Harris. Well, wait till you see this. There is a group called Muslims for Harris. Okay. A very small group. They're getting ratioed like crazy on Twitter. And they are sharing this ad. The DNC has now created an ad about Jill Stein. That is how much of a threat Jill Stein is to the Democratic Party this time around. Now, ever since I've been old enough to vote, I have never seen the Democratic Party create a political attack ad against a third party candidate. And this crazy sellout group called Muslims for Harris, you know, every group got sellouts. Every group got the ones that'll just abandon the people and support the status quo. They said Jill Stein is a MAGA asset. A vote for Stein is a vote for Trump and his anti-Muslim policies. So first of all, notice that the ratio, 277 likes, 309 comments. I'm here somewhere. Did I ratio them? I did. I said, y'all just keep helping her campaign. Continue with the promotion. That's how stupid. Let me show you the ad. Watch this. This is funny.
Jill Stein claims to be green, but she's a MAGA Republican asset. Stein hired Trump lawyers and January 6 rioters to help her campaign.
I like her also, Jill Stein. I like her very much. You know why? She takes 100% from them.
A vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Donald Trump. Jill Stein.
Isn't this sad? A vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Donald Trump. Jill Stein took money or worked with MAGA Republicans. So here's the problem. First of all, that attack ad was really weak and whack. I don't know if that was what kind of voice they used there. I don't know if that was computerized voice or what, but that was really weak and whack and something we have. It's not like people haven't heard this before when she ran in 2016. But here's the problem. How can you attack Jill Stein for the Republican Party or Republicans saying, well, we like Jill because, you know, she's running outside of the two-party system, but also because she's to the left of her issues are to the left of the Democratic Party. So they say some of the progressive people that would have supported the Democrat candidate will support her, right? This is what they say, how they feel and what they think. So the problem is, how are you going to make an ad smearing Jill Stein as a Republican asset and the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, is literally advertising that she will put a Republican in her cabinet on The View, said it in a speech the other night, is rubbing elbows with Liz Cheney, is actively bragging about getting endorsements from Dick Cheney. You literally have the Democrat nominee, Kamala Harris, bragging about working with Republicans and putting Republicans in her cabinet. But you're going to smear Jill Stein as a Republican asset. This had to be one of the dumbest. You know, I don't know who these Democrat strategists are, but these people have got to be incredibly dumb. Just incredibly dumb. And I don't usually call people dumb, but you got to be some kind of stupid to not put these two together. And they are so afraid of Jill Stein. I told you they saw these polls. They're so afraid of Jill Stein. Even Morning Joe is like, we got to go out against Jill. We got to show it. The DNC ad against Jill Stein. This is crazy.
Obviously, Democrats want to leave no stone unturned, and the Democratic National Committee even has this new ad about the danger of the undervote or those who may vote for Jill Stein.
The Democrat National Committee, remember, this is the same Jamie Harrison, who's the chair of the DNC. Jamie Harrison is the same person that told Jill Stein a couple of weeks ago that her campaign wasn't serious. So if her campaign isn't serious, why do you need to make attack ads against her? I don't remember the DNC making attack ads against third-party candidates before. Do you? It's because Kamala Harris is losing Muslim voter support, Black voter support, Latino voter support. She's behind her predecessors with these particular groups. And then she didn't even get the Teamsters endorsement or the firefighters endorsement. What does this tell you?
Just like 3% of the vote. Take a look.
Jill Stein, Green Party candidate for president. So why are Trump's close allies helping her?
Why are Trump's close allies helping her? Look, let me show you how stupid they are. Republicans boost Jill Stein. Republicans are actively working with Kamala Harris. Didn't you guys bring Republicans on the stage at the Democratic National Convention and allowed them to give speeches? Oh, but you wouldn't let the Palestinian Americans speak on the stage. Didn't Kamala Harris just have a rally with Liz Cheney? Isn't Liz Cheney a Republican? Didn't she just get an endorsement from Dick Cheney? Dick Cheney. And she bragged about it. The same Dick Cheney who was against Head Start programs, who was against MLK having a holiday, who was against Nelson Mandela being freed. That's who Kamala Harris is bragging about getting an endorsement from. But no, the problem is Jill Stein.
Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states. She's not sorry she helped Trump win. That's why a vote for Stein is really a vote for Trump.
Jill Stein, I like her very much. You know why? She takes 100% from them.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Honey, I don't know who is running your campaign, but this is an awful, because here's the thing. First of all, a lot of people still didn't even know who Jill Stein was. And now that you've created a campaign ad against her, they know who she is now. Every time they come out with these attack efforts against Jill Stein, they're just giving Jill Stein more attention. The attack effort from Angela Rye on the Breakfast Club backfired and gave Jill Stein more attention. The attacks from Mehdi Hassan gave Jill Stein more attention. And now they've gone as far as to creating a campaign ad against Jill Stein is going to give Jill Stein more attention. And another thing that they get incredibly wrong, and I've said this every election cycle, they assume that everyone that voted for Jill Stein, if she wasn't in the race, would support the Democrat candidate. That is not the case. Would some of them maybe? Maybe. Would all of them? No. I know people that have voted third party since 2008. So they just make this assumption. Instead of pointing their fingers at Jill Stein, they should be pointing their fingers at Kamala Harris. Muslim voters have made it very clear they want her to do a ceasefire and they want her to agree to an arms embargo to Israel. They've been very clear. And some of the Muslim voters said that if she agreed to those two positions, they would move back towards Kamala Harris and they would support her. So how is that Jill Stein's fault? It's not. That's Kamala Harris' fault. She's a weak candidate. I told you she was. Hillary Clinton still blames Jill Stein for the reason that she lost in 2016 in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. But Hillary Clinton didn't even want to campaign in those states. She didn't even want to campaign to the Rust Belt. She called people deplorables with her snobby, snooty attitude, which is not appealing to working class people. But everybody wants to blame Jill Stein. Bernie Sanders had tremendous amount of support, 2016, but even more in 2020. And he was running through the Democratic Party. And even then, fam, they were smearing those of us that were supporting Bernie. They smeared us as spoilers, even though he was in the lead, because they had already decided that Joe Biden needed to be the nominee. And that was a Democrat candidate. What I'm trying to tell you is it doesn't matter if the person is running outside of the Democratic Party or the person is running inside the Democratic Party. They want you to support the person that they select and the donors want. And if you go against that, then they're going to smear you. They'll come after you and attack you because you're not going along with what they want. You're not going along with the status quo. I'm telling you, it's not just a third party thing. They smeared all of us that were supporting Bernie. And then even after 2016, they still blame Bernie supporters for the reason Hillary lost. So it's not just Jill Stein. People forget this. Even Hillary Clinton wrote a book after the fact talking about what would have happened if she won. I'm like, okay, are you OJ now writing books like If I Did It? Blaming Bernie Sanders for the reason why she lost and Jill Stein. So what I'm trying to tell you folks is at the end of the day, it's on the candidate to win those votes. Nobody owes their vote to you. Now they say Kamala Harris is supposed to be going to barbershops, or not barbershops, have a conversation with Charlamagne the God to help win over the black male vote. Didn't you just sit down and have a whole town hall with Latino Americans on TV? Didn't you just have a whole town hall on Univision with Latino Americans? But when it comes to black men, you're going to go talk to Charlamagne the God. This is what they said on the news today. Get ready for it, folks.
So sure, offer up all the ideas of what more Harris could be doing in these few remaining days before the election. At the same time, it's actually you, the American voter, who needs to step up. Obviously.
Oh, it's on us. See, look, we have to step up. No, it's never on the candidate that you guys just put in front of us. And continue saying this, guys. Continue saying nobody voted for Kamala Harris and the 2024 Democrat primary. I will continue saying that. Let me show you why else they're crazy. This Nevada poll. I shared this today. Watch this. Check this out. This new New York Times poll that was released today shows that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are now tied in Nevada. Tied in Nevada. So there's an RCP poll that shows that Donald Trump has jumped ahead of Kamala in Nevada. 48.2% for Trump, 40% for Harris. I would still call that a tie. But you can see here, it shows that he might be just a little bit above her with the RCP poll. The New York Times poll says that they're tied. So let me ask you a question, fam. Jill Stein is not on the ballot in Nevada. The Democratic Party removed her from the ballot in Nevada. Now, she tried to fight to get back on it, and she explained the story that they gave them the wrong paperwork, etc. She tried to take this all the way up to the Supreme Court. So she was really fighting to try to get on that ballot there. But Jill Stein is not on the ballot in Nevada. So now that I've told you that, why is it that Kamala Harris is no longer in the lead in Nevada? She was leading in Nevada for a couple of weeks, actually, and Trump was behind her. Now they are tied. So if they're tied in Nevada, now, and Jill Stein is not on the ballot in Nevada, is that Jill Stein's fault too? See, this is why I like to show the graphs. This is why I like to show data. Because a lot of people are talking about Michigan and Pennsylvania, but this is kind of snuck by people with Nevada. And again, Jill Stein is not on the ballot in Nevada. So if Kamala Harris loses Nevada in November, is that going to be Jill Stein's fault too? No, that would be Kamala Harris's fault. We tried to tell you. Common dreams. Shout out to Jake Johnson. Progressive issue warning to Kamala Harris. Break with Biden on Gaza now. Just want to highlight this part right about here. He talks about the Quinnipiac poll, which I showed last night. But Jake Zogby, president of the Arab American Institute, said, if you want people to vote for you, you got to give them a reason. This is what he said to the Harris team, right? They don't seem to care enough about the Arab American vote to do something to get it. And then I want you to hear this part here. Many of the constituents are Lebanese who have deep attachments to Palestinians, arguing that Israel's escalation in Lebanon will either put an exclamation point on the outrage or depression, causing them either not to vote or flip and vote elsewhere. So again, she was warned over and over again. And I want to read you this. Now, someone reached out to me and sent this to me via email. I put it on Google Doc because to hide privacy, I don't want you to see this person's email or their name or any of that. But I want you guys to hear this. They gave me permission to share this on the show because this says something. Hi, I watched your show about Harris losing Michigan due to Arab Americans, and you are 100% right. I am Arab American and a hate crime victim in Pennsylvania. My case was actually the first in the Eastern District in Pennsylvania in 2008. I'm also a registered Democrat for many years. So this person is a Democrat. I sent many emails and calls trying to reach the Harris campaign with no response. It is impossible for any official that I elected or someone to respond to me. I called the local DNC and shared my concerns with them and basically was told, we know what we're doing, and hung up. So do you see how they're being treated? I had told them that they are losing the Arab American vote to Jill Stein and some to Trump. And instead of going on Howard Stern or Gen Z YouTube person, she should have gone onto a telecast with our leaders showing support or let us speak at the DNC. I told them as a hate crime survivor, I fear Donald Trump. They basically told me indirectly to go away. So you see, again, Arab American voter, registered Democrat. Is this Jill Stein's fault? We're going to make that a slogan. We're going to make that a slogan by the end of the night. I'm telling you. Goes on to say here, below is the letter I sent to Harris 3 weeks ago without any response or acknowledgement. Dear VP Harris, I hope you actually get a chance to read my message. I'm Arab American and a hate crime survivor. In fact, my case was the first in the Eastern District in PA to get to court. I also have spoken out over the years on hate crimes and its effect on communities. You can Google the name. Let me go forward. Sorry. Thought I put that part out. Sadly, no American politician understands how the Arab American vote is casted. We vote on policy in the United States, obviously, but we also vote on foreign policy affecting our heritage and sisters in Palestine. We feel our blood does not matter. Genocide happens frequently and not only during World War II. I have many Jewish friends who also feel the same way. The genocide must end. We feel that our taxes should not fund it either. I am worried that you will not secure PA, which we have a huge population here of Arab Americans and Michigan. So you see, it's not just Michigan, it's also Pennsylvania, right? If I may, I will outline some ideas that will help your campaign. First, do not allow AIPAC or other special interest groups dictate you. Be true as I see you have it within yourself. Second, show the voters that you are you. You do not have blood on your hands. Do something for Palestinians now, not when you get elected. Third, while it was wrong to allow an Arab American not speak at the DNC, try to salvage it by going and meeting with leaders on televised meetings. Bring us in. I am trying to get my friends, etc., to vote for you, but the pain of Gaza makes many uncomfortable and uncommitted. Please do something now. Arab American vote is just as important as any other group. And by showing true compassion, not only will you win our vote, but the respect of the country whose people are not for genocide. That was their message to Kamala Harris. Registered Democrat, Arab American voter. And then she ended with this: I feel we don't matter to them at all. I feel actually offended by my party when all I am doing is trying to help. I don't know why I am reaching out today except to say I am proud to be an American and Arab, but scared of my future. I love this country and I want to feel my voice and my people's voice actually matter to the people I elected. I only wanted to help my party, but I guess they don't need their constituent support or voice. As like I was told, we know what we are doing. Thank you. Is that Jill Stein's fault? So that's someone who's still willing to try. And the Democratic Party is just like, whatever. To tell Arab Americans who are particularly considering the genocide, to tell them, you know, we know what we're doing and just brush them off and hang up on them, it's messed up. Let's go to some of the comments here. Uh-oh, where did I stop at? I'm sorry, guys. I am by myself here. I am by myself here. We don't have Eric here. We don't have Eric here. I am by myself here. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Sorry, guys. I had to search through them. Rockfin. All right, I'll come back to Rockfin. Thank you, Samad. Those two handles I mentioned are Black in Rep K. Okay. Thank you, Courtney. The trustee of the Heritage Foundation endorsed Harris last week. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah. Thank you, Stop Sniffing Kids Joe. Can you get Candace Owens on the show? Don't know her. Not sure that conversation would go well, to be honest with you, but probably not because I don't know her. Thank you, Samad. I have too much time to bother Kamala's hubby, Doug. Shout out to Cynical. Why don't you debate Jill, Kamala? Prove you are better for America to American citizens. We already know Israel love you. Shout out to Cynical for being a member for 5 months. Thank you, Janice. I think they made attack ads for Nader and Perot. Okay, I wasn't sure, but I haven't seen those. But I've never seen them. I guess not since then. Interesting. And Perot was independent, I think, but I guess not since then. Thank you, Kaime. If I did it, LMFAO, go off Sabby. The If I Did It book. Thank you, Cooper. Seems like a lot of otherwise intelligent people have just chosen not to think when it comes to party support, but it seems more social than political. It's a good point. Thank you, P. Bartley. How can we be in debt to a public servant? That is so ass backwards. It only goes in one direction. Politicians can only owe us. Thank you. That's a good point. Thank you, Shalon. Obama talking about Trump making it political is rich. I'm in St. Pete, Florida, and 20 minutes before Milton made landfall, Biden interrupted our local coverage with a press conference bashing Trump. TFOH. Interesting. Thank you, Barron. It's horrifying that people are not upset about the fact that Kamala is an installed tool. They bypass all democratic process to install her, yet people are not making a big deal out of it. Yeah, that's the crazy part, man. That's the crazy part. Thank you, Jasmine. Democratic condensation will be their downfall. Also, what email can we send stories like this to? Oh, so you can send it to my email address. It's in the details description of all my videos. My email address is there. sabrinasalvati at sabbysabs.com. Thank you. And thank you, Hussein. As an Arab American of Lebanese descent and Muslim, I feel like we've been so dehumanized that our killings are justified, been crying on and off sick. And I know, I'm sorry to hear that, Hussein. I'm not Arab American or Lebanese or Muslim, but I mean, it's been really hard for me, like some of the images that I've seen. And like, it's just crazy because it's like, I'll never unsee those images. And I don't understand how anyone can just pretend like it doesn't matter. All right. Okay, guys, go ahead and smash that like button, fam. Hit the And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And now we're going to have some laughs because I love this guy. So Muhammad Hijab killed it on Piers Morgan. He definitely let Alan Dershowitz know what time it is. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is probably one of my favorite debates so far. Many of you told me about it, and here we are.
I think Hamas would do it again, would do October 7th again, because they think they've won. They've turned college and university students against Israel. They have...
People were already against you before October 7th. This is another arrogance of Alan Dershowitz. People may not have said that publicly, but people were already against the Israeli government prior to October 7th.
Solidify the United Nations opposition to Israel. They've divided Americans, particularly the Republican administrations in the past, from the current Democratic administration. So Hamas cannot be allowed to have a victory on growing out of October 7th any more than ISIS should have been allowed to have a victory going out of 9/11. So I think the answer is yes, a military defeat for Iran and its surrogates, and a peace process between Israel and Saudi Arabia with steps taken toward a recognition of a two-state solution, which is the only reasonable solution that will solve the problem. But remember that October 7th was stimulated by the desire to prevent Israel and Saudi Arabia from creating a peace process following up from the Abraham Accords. And unless that peace process continues, and unless Hamas is told, no, you failed, the world will not reward you for this, we're just going to see a continuation of the bloodshed in the Middle East, which does not serve the interests of the Palestinians nor the Israeli people.
Okay. Saudi Arabia is probably going to be like, don't bring us into this situation. You guys know we're trying to be Switzerland over up in here. We joined BRICS. We're buddies with Russia and China. We're also friends, kind of friends with the US. You know, sometimes we're fair weather friends and that kind of thing. Don't be trying to put us up in the middle of this. As I bet you that's how Saudi Arabia is thinking right now. You know, they're probably just like, don't bring us into your genocide. Don't bring us into your mess.
Hey, Mohammed Hijab, your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that wherever we see suffering, wherever we see death and destruction, especially of young people, assault, sexual assault, we see Dershowitz to the rescue, the former defense attorney of Jeffrey Epstein, a man himself accused
I
of
knew
rape.
we would get to that. I knew.
Yeah. And I saw this and I said, somebody finally said it. Yes. Why are you always there? Why do you still defend? And I know people will say, well, he's a lawyer. He's going to defend his client. He's still defending Jeffrey Epstein after it was proven he was guilty. He still defends it today. Why were you on that island, Alan Dershowitz? Were you getting some of these massages too? I remember the way that he responded to Kim Iverson when she was asking him questions about that. And he was like, well, yeah, I got a massage, but it wasn't from anyone young. It was an older woman named Olga or something like that. Kim never said it was a young woman. Not once. You added in that information. But this is a good question. Get him, Muhammad. Go, Muhammad, go.
I didn't give you permission to interrupt me. I didn't give you permission to interrupt me. I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Okay, here's what I would say.
I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Hang on. Here's what I would say.
To the merits.
I didn't give you permission.
Listen, Mohammed, attacking a lawyer for defending people is a stupid argument.
Well,
right?
I'm not making an argument yet.
Well, you're just using an
I'm not making an argument.
attack straight off the top.
Has he got leverage on you? Is that
no,
why
he's a brilliant lawyer.
I saw your picture with Maxwell. He's got leverage on you.
He's a brilliant lawyer.
Are you saying that because he's got leverage on you?
I met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes at a book launch.
You look very happy with her.
Well, I didn't know anything about her at the
You look
time,
very
other
happy
than she
with
was
her.
the daughter of the man that
We're talking about the biggest sexual scandal in the last 100
who I
years.
never met Jeffrey Epstein or ever knew him. Alan Dershowitz was wrongly accused of various things in relation to Jeffrey Epstein.
How do you know it's wrongly?
Because they've all been...
Why are you defending him?
They all turned out to be nonsense.
Oh, I love this guy. I told you. And thank you guys for sending this one to me because I love this guy. He's like, how do you know? Why are you defending him? And these are good questions. Why is Piers Morgan so quick to defend Alan Dershowitz and throw everybody else who's pro-Palestinian under the bus? And I told you about the relationship between Rupert Murdoch and Piers Morgan. Loki called it out publicly to his face on his show. And it's true. It's like, why would you leave that out, Piers Morgan? Why would you leave it out that Rupert Murdoch, who was your boss, which is where Uncensored, this TV show came from Talk TV and you split it off to do your own thing, but you were still a part of some of Rupert Murdoch's subsidiaries, which a lot of people don't understand. So Piers Morgan's show was not independent. Why would you leave that out and not let people know when you're having these Israel-Gaza debates that Rupert Murdoch had donated money to Benjamin Netanyahu? I think that's something that people would need to know. Now you're defending this clown.
Since he won a court case
Why
about
are you not
it.
looking at me when I'm speaking to you?
Well, I can turn to you, but there are three of us involved in this.
Yeah, you're speaking to me, so
Okay, let me make things clear. I never met Jeffrey Epstein. I met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you look very happy in that picture.
Okay, if you want to use that as an ad hominem attack
but why
on me,
are you defending him?
Hang on, a picture taken in 2013.
He spoke for 3 minutes. I spoke for 20 seconds.
I'm defending him because your first attack on him is to attack him as a lawyer because he defends bad people. That's
fine.
Here's a little secret for you, Mohammed.
Also
all lawyers do that.
No, but hold on. We're not talking about bad people. We're talking about, excuse me. You've had enough. You've had enough speaking. I'm talking about a person who, after the fact, said that he was proud to defend him after the allegations come out. You still wanted to? Do you condemn Dershowitz
for what?
For defending Epstein.
I have defended
and being proud.
So now you get that question, Piers Morgan. Now you get the question, do you condemn something? Oh,
I have defending Epstein.
Some of the best.
It's not for me to
I
defend
have
him.
defended some of
All
the
I can
best
tell you
people
is
in the world.
Okay, Alan, you defend yourself.
No, why should he defend himself? I haven't even spoken for 20 seconds.
Alan can defend himself.
But let me speak for more than 20 seconds. I haven't even made my point yet.
I helped to defend Bill Clinton. I've helped to defend some of the finest people in the world, and I've also helped to defend some of the worst.
Defended.
I helped defend Nelson Mandela. I helped defend Bill Clinton. And after Bill Clinton, he says, I helped defend some of the finest people in the world. I don't think Bill Clinton is some of the finest people in the world. Wasn't Bill Clinton on that island too? Wasn't Bill Clinton on that island too, Alan? Wasn't he there too? What are you
talking? He was not proud of defending John Lennon in the same way as he announced that he was proud of defending Epstein.
What's this got to do with Israel?
This has got to do with the fact that this man, the credibility of this man is on the line. He defends Israel on the one hand, and on the other hand, he defends Epstein. I think the public should know this.
Do you want me to play? Do you want me to play the clips?
He's proud of it.
Mohammed, do you want me to play the clips of you
and I don't
that
know,
do the rounds on social media saying some very inflammatory things? Do you want me to?
Why are you not looking at me?
Because I'm looking at the three of us.
I'm right here.
You can turn to me, then the viewers see me and you
look at me man to man.
Fine.
Look at me man to man. Look at my eyes.
Yes, it's called an aesthetic thing for videos.
Okay, now, the first thing I wanted to say was that this man's credibility is something which is shocking that we're even entertaining.
What do you base it on?
On the fact that he actually defended Epstein, and after the fact, he said he was proud of it. He was in Epstein's vicinity. He was in Epstein's vicinity. He had a massage in his vicinity. This is the kind of person that we're having on the show defending Israel. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is, in the first interaction where me and you were talking about October the 7th, we spent about 3 or 4 minutes actually talking about sexual assault allegations, if you remember that. And actually here, what we have is Israeli soldiers like Mir, from Unit 100, and that's on The Guardian, it's on Sky News, it's on all these kinds of platforms, coming out, and there's videographic evidence of him raping another man. I haven't heard condemnation from you, and I don't expect to hear it from him who defended Epstein. Well, this shows you the bias in the coverage for a year, where we know the ICJ have said that there's a plausible genocide.
You haven't been watching my show.
No, let me finish here and let me add in really quick, because Piers is getting pissed because he's taking it out on him as well, as he should, because it's true. We have all seen it happen. When it comes to the sexual assault towards Israelis on October 7th, Piers Morgan was still repeating that lie that there was no evidence, and that has been debunked by multiple news outlets. Multiple news, even corporate media have debunked that. And he was still repeating that lie, along with some of the politicians. Kamala Harris is doing the same thing, et cetera, right? But when there was video evidence that showed that IDF soldiers were sexually assaulting Palestinians in the Palestinian detention center, Piers Morgan, you never hear him talk about that. You never hear him mention what the IDF soldiers have done to the Palestinian people. He never talks about, and there was evidence, and he won't mention it. He just continues to mention what happened to Israelis on October 7th, but will never mention what happened to Palestinians who have been sexually assaulted, and it is on video and there's evidence for it. So he is correct when he talks about the bias of that show.
Sorry.
I think I have.
No, you haven't.
Have you spoken about me?
You're talking complete bullshit.
Okay, tell me why.
Right?
Tell me why.
Because A, I did condemn what you've just talked about in a previous debate.
Good.
Right?
Dershowitz, do you condemn it?
Yes, of course. I condemn any rape of anybody and any assault on anybody who's in captivity.
And you also condemn the right of rape protest that took place in Israel. And you acknowledge that there's a problem in Israel with this.
Place, they will be investigated. They will be fully investigated. They will be court-martialed.
Do you acknowledge that there's a problem in Israeli society?
If anybody is convicted of that, they deserve their punishment.
Do you acknowledge that there's a problem in
What about the problem with Hamas raping women?
I have no compunction.
On October the 7th.
So there you go. So you see what I was telling you? So why is it whenever there's assault that's brought up that Israel has done, why don't they really want to talk about that? And by the way, Piers Morgan doesn't bring that up on his own. It's usually a guest that will bring that up, and then he'll have to respond to it. But Piers Morgan, for the most part, he's always bringing up what happened on October 7th, but which no evidence of this, by the way. But yet there's evidence of Palestinians that have been sexually assaulted that is video recorded, but you'll never want to bring it up. So he's pissed now. So now he's going to, snap back at Muhammad and say, what about October 7th?
I I have no compunction condemning Hamas for anything that they've done. You've said that. You've asked me before, and I've told you before. I have no moral scruple. Neither do the majority of the Muslim world. I tell you now, anything that Hamas has done, we have condemned in the first instance. But we're not seeing the same level of coverage with Hamas as we are seeing with these people that are shoving rods off people's ass and raping people on videographic evidence. And you have 3,000 people, you talk about the hostages, you've got 3,000 people in essentially captivity, according to Human Rights Watch and B'Tselem, who are prisoners of war of Israel. And we're spending a fraction of the time speaking about them as compared to speaking about the hostages. This shows you the inherent bias.
There's no comparison. There's no comparison between innocent hostages who did nothing wrong and people who are being charged with criminal offenses.
They're not charged with criminal offenses. That's why you're meant to know better. You're meant to know better than that.
But they are charged with security offenses. But you can't compare.
They are arrested without charge.
You can't compare a 3-year-old baby.
They're not charged with criminal offenses.
Don't shout over each other. We can't hear the answer.
He's lying to them.
He's correct. A lot of times they're not actually charged. And this is something, I highly encourage you to watch Abby Martin's documentary if you haven't had a chance to do so. That documentary was released prior to October 7th. So if you haven't seen it, please watch it, because this is a common issue that the IDF has done before, where they will arrest Palestinians and they don't even have to be convicted of a charge. It's not like they arrest them and they await trial, they go to court, etc. They just arrest them and they throw them into the prisons. They've done this with Palestinian children as well. They have gone into Palestinian homes and they've taken people out of the home. Even if it wasn't the person they came there looking for, they will just take someone in that person's place and throw them into the prisons.
Allow him to respond.
To somebody who's a member of Hamas.
Say that
Sorry,
again.
Adam, we couldn't hear because he was shouting.
I was shouting. Say it
Alan,
again.
he says the 3,000...
You can't compare
Alan, he says the 3,000...
baby.
Alan, just to be clear, he said the 3,000 people he's talking about were all arrested without charge, and therefore they've not been charged with crimes. Your response to that?
Well, if they were, they should be released. Nobody should be arrested without charge. If you're held for a security reason,
pathetic.
I will say what I want. It's uncensored. Good boy.
Let me finish, please. Let me make my point.
Try and have a proper debate.
I'll say what I like.
Can I make my point? Let me make my point. Great Britain confined tens of thousands of people without charges during the Second World War.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Did the same.
Two wrongs don't make a right. Let's talk about what Hitler done. Let's talk about what Hitler done.
Let me make my point. I'm opposed to that. I wrote an article against administrative detention. But you can't compare that, no matter how bad it is. You can't compare it to 3-year-olds being kidnapped, to people being raped and murdered. You can't compare what happened on October 7th to what Israel has done.
Yes, you can't,
in terms
because
of
on the one
security
hand,
prisoners.
you've got 30,000
There's no
people,
comparison
and you've got
at all.
about 100.
And stop
That's
interrupting me.
So here's Alan Dershowitz. So Alan Dershowitz just told you that you can't compare the sexual assault that Israel has done to what they're saying Hamas has done. Is this mofo really trying to lesser of two evils sexual assault? Is that really what he's trying to do? Did anybody else catch that? What did you do on that island, Alan? What you do on Jeffrey Epstein's island? This man is wild.
Times more. That's 30 times more. If you want us to take you seriously, if you want us to take this coverage seriously, if you want us to take Western media seriously, then let's, for God's sake, talk about proportionality as your favorite word. We're talking about 30,000 people detained in prisons on the one hand, and 100 people who are hostages. And yet we have managed somehow to spend way more time proportionally.
You said 3,000 a minute ago. Which one is it? 3,000?
Sorry, 3,000. 3,000.
It's not 30,000.
Not 30.
Okay,
3,000.
Get your numbers right if you're going to make that cut.
Okay, I misspoke.
You exaggerated
not a problem.
10 times.
Not a problem. He spoke about Iran. Let me ask you a question about it.
Let me ask the question.
Sure, go ahead.
And you guys try and debate it.
Go ahead.
At the moment, Alan Dershowitz is being very civilised in the way he's debating.
I'm sure you're going to say that.
You're just making ad hominem attacks and shouting all the time.
He's your friend.
No one can understand it when you shout.
Have you met him before?
I know Alan well.
Oh, you know him well.
I respect him very much.
Oh, there it is. He knows Alan well and he respects him. And he said that Alan's being civilized. Like, I'm sorry, but there has been a number of times when Alan's come on that show and he shouted over people. And also when Rabbi Shmuley has come on to Piers Morgan's show and he shouted over people. He wasn't acting civilized. I don't remember Piers jumping in and trying to tell him to stop. Maybe that's his buddy too. I know Alan very well. He's my friend.
Yes, you do.
He's one of America's top lawyers.
His top lawyers.
Yeah, he is.
And you're an unbiased person here on Central.
An unbiased person, but Alan Dershowitz. Why?
Does he have leverage on you, Piers Morgan?
There's no leverage on me, no.
You've got a picture with Maxwell.
Yes, with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Did you go to the island?
No, I've never been to the island. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein.
Be honest.
I never spent more than 5 minutes with
Be
Ghislaine
honest.
Maxwell. I've answered you. So what part of that wants to...
Do you condemn him being on the island? He's your good friend.
You can ask,
ask him to
Dershowitz
condemn him.
about Jeffrey Epstein.
You had a massage.
He represented him.
He said he didn't take his shorts off.
Do you know what?
That's
None of
that's
this has
he
got
said.
anything to do with Israel.
He said he didn't take his shorts off when he was getting a
Can you
massage.
please, Mohammed.
Why is this uncomfortable?
It's nothing to do with the debate.
He's taking his shorts off, but he's got his pants down now, hasn't he?
Can you stop it?
Why?
What's the point?
Why? He defended one of the most obnoxious people in the last 100 years. Why should I stop it?
Actually, what is going on right
should I
now
stop it?
in the Middle East is incredibly important.
Yes, and you have this man who's...
You are trivializing this. Well, if you didn't want to do a debate, don't agree to do it.
Who said I'm not going to do a debate? I'm saying this person who's defending Israel...
Stupid ad hominem attacks is pathetic.
Oh, okay. All right. He's your good friend. You want to defend him so much.
What are you talking about?
You're defending him.
Huh?
You're defending him. You're defending a monster. A pervert. An old pervert.
He's not a pervert or a monster.
Why is he not? He knew Epstein. And for us, there's good info.
Why are you doing this, Mohammed?
Why not?
Because it's pointless. You may get a few clicks
ask
on...
your questions.
You might get a few clicks on it. So what?
It's not...
Ask your questions.
Let me be very clear. It's not pointless. He just called me a pervert. He will be sued now
that's
for defamation,
it's
and we will be
defamation.
able to
It's
resolve
honest
this
opinion. In
in
the UK,
a
we have
court of
different
law. I
defamation
guarantee you that he will be sued
In
for
my
calling me a
understanding,
pervert.
you are a pervert
the woman
because
who
you are
falsely
acquainted with
accused
Jeffrey
me
Epstein.
has now withdrawn her
Sure, I've got my own defamation
accusation
cases. I know the
and
law very well here.
acknowledged that
You
she
can't
may
threaten
have
me.
confused me with
I know the
somebody
law very
else.
well.
And
I
calling
consider
me a
you to be a
pervert
pervert
will
because of your
result
connection with
in
Jeffrey
a
Epstein.
defamation lawsuit
Sure,
in an
I'm ready for
American
it.
court
I'm
and in a
ready.
British
I'm ready
court.
for the
I
lawsuit.
assure you of that.
I believe
Let's
you
move
are
on to
an old
Israel
pervert.
now.
Why don't we move
We'll
on to the
resolve
debate?
this in
You're an old
court.
pervert.
Let's move on to
You're an old
Israel.
pervert.
So that is epic there, you guys. And this guy is so freaking awesome. Please, when you get a chance, watch the full interview. Pierce is so mad. Can we give him a clap? Can we give Muhammad Hijab? Can we give him a little dance? Let's give him some music. Hey, hey. Dance with me. Dance with me. All right. We had to give him his flowers. Man, I'm telling you, when you guys got the time, try to watch the whole interview. But I did want to cover that part because that was the first time I see somebody like really take off the gloves and go after Piers Morgan. So that had to be done. Oh my God. Thank you for the super chat, Lamar. What do you think a plant is? Cat Williams. Thank you, Hussein. Dropped out of college since CUNY support Israel. Yeah, I heard about. Was a social work major, had a 3.7 GPA, and had one more year to go. Morals and belief mean tons. Yeah. It's been really disappointing to see how many colleges support and back Israel. Thank you, AB. Piers Morgan is always grilling and cutting off people on the right side just to push the mainstream narrative. You're right. He's been doing this for a while. And shout out to AB for being a member for 1 month. And thank you, Samad Sterling. Hashtag Jill's fault will break the algorithm. Thank you. Okay. All right, guys. So we started with Colorado last night, and then for whatever reason, part of this was cut off. But we started with the veterans tax. So I just want to jump back into Colorado ballot measures. I think next state we're going to do is Florida. Yeah, I think Florida should be next. But I want to make sure we get back to the ballot measures here for Colorado. So again, guys, they are trying to make it so that veterans in Colorado would not have to, would be exempt from property tax. Not just those that have disability, but also those that have unemployability status as well. So that could be really huge for Colorado. Who supports that is Democrats Rhonda Fields and Robert Marshall. There's no money spent to support or oppose it. The next one is Colorado Amendment H, Independent Judicial Discipline Adjudicative Board Amendment, where a yes vote supports creating an independent judicial discipline adjudicative board and create rules for the judicial discipline process. The board would consist of 4 district judges, 4 attorneys, and 4 citizens, which would conduct disciplinary hearings and hear appeals related to disciplinary actions from the Commission on Judicial Discipline. Under amendment, judicial discipline cases would become public once formal proceedings begin, rather than confidential until the process is complete. So this is interesting. One thing I want to mention here, it says that, I want to highlight this, a tribunal of 7 randomly selective court of appeals and district judges would be required to review the panel's decision if the complaint is against a Colorado Supreme Court justice, a Colorado Supreme Court justice, a justice staff member, or a justice family member is the complainant or witness in a proceeding, or more than 2 justices have rescued themselves from the proceeding. Who supports this? It's actually kind of bipartisan. You have Bob Gardner, Julia Gonzalez, Mike Lynch, Mike Wiseman, so Republicans and Democrats. Here's one of the arguments. There will be earlier disclosure that a discipline case exists. We will still preserve the confidentiality of complaints, witnesses, and judges in the judicial discipline cases as we protect the confidentiality of anyone in our court system. However, we will give the public better access to data about our judicial discipline system. So let's see about the money. There's no money spent to support or oppose. Here's a note here from Roger Meadows. Nobody saw opposition to this, really, for the simple fact that you got judges on this panel judging and seeing to the disciplinary action of other judges. On top of that, why are the citizens who are selected to be on here not me to outnumber everybody else? There's no way I would vote for this, replace the judges with people from trusted good governance organizations, and have it where the citizens outnumber the attorneys and whoever else is on board. That's an interesting one. This one's interesting. Colorado amendment remove right to bail in first-degree murder cases. Whoa. A yes vote supports removing the right to bail in cases of first-degree murder. The amendment would make first-degree murder an unbailable offense when the proof is evident or the presumption is great. Well. Who supports this? Also bipartisan, Democrats and Republican representatives. Here's one of the arguments. This is a fix that the Colorado Supreme Court has asked us to do to be able to make sure that we have a balanced approach for those who have access to bail. So I think cash bail system just needs to go. Cash bail system is part of the reason why there are some people who may not necessarily be guilty, but they are still in jail because they don't have the money to pay the bail to get out. Right. And when people talk about prisons being overcrowded, part of that has to do with cash bail. Who is opposed to this? Javier Mabry, who is a Democrat, One of his arguments, I felt that it could impact the principle of innocence until proven guilty. If a judge makes a determination that someone is likely guilty before the trial, I worry about the signal that could send to the jury, the prosecution, and the defense. Yeah, that's interesting too. There's no money spent to support or oppose this measure. Quick note here. Yes, this is a tricky one because it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. So you don't want to violate the accused rights. But at the same time, there's a duty the government must uphold to the public when it comes to safety. However, like I've always said, enforce the Sixth Amendment so that we can get these people into trial. Matter of fact, I would say prioritize murder cases when it comes to a speedy trial. Yeah, that's a big one. And I think that's a no-brainer. Like, right? We need to have speedy trials in this country. That would help a lot with this. Same-sex marriage. This is interesting. Colorado Amendment J, remove constitutional same-sex marriage ban amendment. A yes vote supports removing the provision of the state constitution that says only a union of one man and one woman shall be valid or recognized as a marriage in this state. I'm actually surprised that's still there for Colorado, just because Colorado has kind of been like the test ground for some of these new ideas and ballot measures, such as like legalizing marijuana, et cetera. Like they did this before we did in Massachusetts. So I'm actually surprised that that was still there. Interesting. Who supports this? Freedom to Marry Colorado is leading this campaign. Supporters, Democratic Party state representatives, also Working Families Party of Colorado, Colorado Education Association, and some of the organizations like ACLU of Colorado. Here's one of the arguments. As representatives of the people of Colorado, it is our shared responsibility to uphold the principles of equality and justice for all citizens, regardless of political affiliations. While we are protected today, our state constitution still reflects outdated language and values. You'll see this too sometimes, guys. There are some states that still have like these blue laws as well on the books. And who opposes Republican Scott Bottoms? His argument is the Democrats want to remove the idea of marriage being between a man and a woman. You have an opportunity to vote against this initiative in November. I took some time to explain how God sees marriage and the fact that we have to stand before God for our decisions. Right. But this is what kills me. There's separation of church and state. So why are you bringing God into this? I don't know. Somebody tell me. There is over $64,000 spent to support this, zero spent to oppose it. So it's probably going to pass. Colorado Amendment K, initiative and referendum filing and judicial retention filing deadlines amendment. A yes vote supports changing the signature deadline for initiative and referendum signature gathering. Therefore, sorting the collection period by 1 week, as well as moving the deadline for justices and judges to file declarations of intent to run for another term by 1 week, in order to allow 1 extra week for the Secretary of State to certify ballot order and content and election officials' deadline to transmit ballots. Who supports this? This is bipartisan, Democrats and Republican representatives and state senators. There is no money spent to support or oppose this. Here's a note here from Roger. Although I understand why the Secretary of State is pushing for this because they need more time to do proper signature verification. However, Colorado only allows 6 months to gather signatures for initiatives and 3 months for veto referendums. Arizona, which is the same size as Colorado, allows for 18 months to get the signatures. So it's already too short. You give them a yard and they will take a mile. You give them a week, giving voters less time to gather signatures. That week can turn into 4 weeks, can turn into 2 months. So no, this initiative gets an absolute 100% no from me. Yeah, I would vote no on this one, guys. You got to be careful with these. This is another one of those questions where I feel like a lot of people just may not be aware. Colorado Proposition 127, prohibit hunting of mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx initiative. I didn't know people were out there hunting damn bobcats. I didn't know this was a thing. A yes vote supports defining and prohibiting trophy hunting as intentionally killing, wounding, pursuing, or entrapping a mountain lion, a bobcat, or a lynx, or discharging or releasing any deadly weapon at a mountain lion, bobcat, or lynx. Under the initiative, mountain lions would no longer be considered big game. This would have the effect of making the mountain lion livestock incidents ineligible for big game damage claims made by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Okay, I mean, I didn't even know people were doing this. Like, I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm in Massachusetts. I didn't know people were out there hunting mountain lions, but you know, I try to avoid any mountain lion, but I guess to each his own. Cats Aren't Trophies is leading this campaign. And some of the organizations that support it are Animal Help Now, Animal Wellness Action, Attorneys for Animals, to name a few. I'm not going to read all of those. And one of the arguments is the value of having 3 species of wildcats in Colorado should not solely be measured in the dollars that they bring as fur for trappers, or a hide, or a mount for a trophy hunter. Yeah. Mountain lions occupy a unique place in Colorado as an apex predator, bringing vast benefits to Colorado's deer and elk herds. Yeah, again, like I said, I didn't know people were doing that. I would vote yes for this. Like, I would vote for this. Like, stop hunting those damn mountain lions. Save yourselves as well. Who's against this? Senator Perry Will, Republican. Organizations, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Of course, Colorado Bow Hunters Association. There's a whole list of them here. One of the arguments, the future of Colorado's wildlife management is at a crossroads. The underpinnings of science-based wildlife management administered by wildlife professionals may be on the ballot this November, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Yeah, how about stop killing the animals? Like, just stop. That's all. That's all I'm asking for. Stop. There is over $1.6 million spent to support this measure and over $660,000 spent to oppose it. Interesting, folks. Roger said he would vote yes for that. Maybe I said it the wrong way. But I would protect those mountain lions. Check this one out. Colorado Proposition 128, Parole Eligibility Initiative. Uh-oh. A yes vote supports requiring offenders convicted of certain violent crimes, such as second-degree murder, first-degree assault, first-degree kidnapping, first or second-degree sexual assault, first-degree arson, first-degree burglary, and aggravated robbery to serve at least 85% of their sentence before parole eligibility, and offenders with 2 prior violent crime convictions to serve their full sentence before beginning parole. This initiative would go into effect January 1st of 2025. So this is interesting because basically what it sounds like what they're trying to do, it says that under this initiative for those crimes that I just mentioned, it's saying that you have to serve 85% of your sentence before being eligible for parole, and earned time for good behavior could not be used to reduce the sentence. So what it sounds like is that they're trying to keep people in jail longer before they are eligible for parole. This could be their attempt to try to curb crime. I don't know, but that's what it sounds like. They're trying to keep prisoners in there longer. Let's go on here. Who supports this? Advanced Colorado Institute and Republican Michael Fields. And one of the arguments is, I think people are really shocked and appalled when they understand that because of earned time, good time, the parole board these violent criminals are getting out at less than half of their sentence. There's many stories about people getting out early, reoffending the victims out there. I think it's definitely worth that money to keep violent criminals in jail longer than they're getting out right now at an average of 46% of their sentence. So again, I think the solution is flawed, because what this tells you is that the problem is the criminal justice system itself. There is no real prison reform, because if people are getting out of prison and they're still becoming, repeat offenders, that means that no rehabilitation is taking place at the prison. So instead of saying, let's keep these people in there longer, what they should be advocating for is real rehabilitation in the prison system in the United States. And other countries have this. There are other countries like Norway that have actual rehabilitation programs in the prison system. So I feel like this is just put a Band-Aid. They're putting a Band-Aid on the wound, and they're not really trying to heal the wound. Opposition, the ACLU of Colorado, and they say here, one of these is, we have seen through American history that increasing penalties on crime does not deter crime. The ballot measure just eliminates a tool that DOC has to help individuals get back on their feet and get back to their families. Yeah, this is a really important one. And also, the longer that you are in prison, the harder it is going to be for you to get a job when you are released from prison. This is just a reality. There is zero money that is spent to support it, and there's over $52,000 spent to oppose it. Based. Now it's time for the vets. Colorado Proposition 129, Veterinarian Professional Associate Initiative. A yes vote supports creating a new profession, the Veterinary Professional Associate, the VPA, requiring a master's degree and registration with the State Board of Veterinary Medicine to practice under supervision of a licensed veterinarian. I mean, let's go. I mean, I have no objections to that, create a new profession. I'm surprised this needs to be, well, I guess because you have to have the license. But this is on the ballot. So this is interesting. So it says here that currently in Colorado, veterinarians must earn a doctor or a veterinary medicine degree, a DVM, which is typically a 4-year degree program after earning a 4-year bachelor's degree. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I can see this happening. Who supports this? ASPCA and Dumb Friends League. That's interesting. Dumb Friends League. Wow. One of the arguments here, we have a severe workforce crisis. There's long wait lines, whether it's routine or emergency, and veterinary hospitals aren't accepting new patients. Yeah, I think veterinary medicine can be overlooked. You know what I mean? Like, I don't hear about many people going into veterinary medicine. Opposition. Who opposes this? The American Veterinary Dental College. There you go. Of course. They're like, hell no. One of the arguments here is that the initiative presents dangerous risk by permitting VPAs to practice the full scope of veterinary medicine, including performing surgery with inadequate, mostly online training. Surgical procedures, even routine surgeries, are highly complex and require extensive veterinary training and expertise. Interesting. Over 1.3 million spent to support, over 965,000 spent to oppose. Colorado, you guys have some interesting questions this time. I don't know. Colorado Proposition 130, Law Enforcement Funding Initiative. A yes vote supports creating the Peace Officer Training and Support Fund to provide funding for law enforcement training, retention, and hiring. Training surrounding the use of force and death benefits for surviving spouses and children of officers or first responders killed in the line of duty. We need to be careful with the way that this one is worded, because this almost sounds like, watch this. Under the initiative, the Colorado state legislature would be required to appropriate $350 million to the Peace Officer Training and Support Fund. The funds will be used as grants to law enforcement agencies for the following. Increased salaries is the first thing you see on here. Providing one-time hiring, retention, merit bonus, etc., to attract exceptional law enforcement. This almost kind of sounds like a cushier version of Cop City. That's why I'm like, we need to be careful with this one. Make sure, those of you in Colorado, make sure you look through this one very closely. This is what R really just said the same thing. This is a Cop City bill, probably. That's what I'm feeling, you know? So you got to be careful how they word these sometimes, right? The initiative would create a death benefit for surviving spouse. So they're talking about surviving spouse, etc. But this sounds like hiring. See, look at this. Hiring additional police to address specific geographic areas or types of criminal activity, such as gang activity, drug cartels, human trafficking, stolen vehicles. Yeah, nah, fam. They're trying to, okay, so they're trying to increase policing. I would not vote for this. Me personally, I wouldn't vote for it. Not down with the popo. Who supports this? Advanced Colorado Institute and Michael Fields, who's Republican. One of the arguments is families and communities across Colorado say that crime and illegal drug trafficking are among their biggest concerns. So do you see what's happening here, guys? They worded it as a peace officer training, but this is really just another way for them to fund the police more and to increase the police state. We have to be careful with the wording. And then who opposes this is the ACLU. And they go on to say it's designed to waste taxpayer money while masquerading as a ballot measure for public safety. Mm-hmm. And I know in Colorado, you guys have a lot of these questions to go through for election day. And that's why I said, like, try to take your time to read through these prior to when you go to vote, because they really don't want you to, they're like, oh, they're not going to read all of this, right? And there is zero money spent to support this and over 52,000 spent to oppose it. So that tells you something there. Colorado Proposition 131, top 4 ranked choice voting initiative. Here we go again with ranked choice voting. A yes vote supports establishing top 4 primary elections and ranked choice voting for U.S. Senate, House of Representatives, Governor, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Treasurer, Colorado University Board of Regents, State Board of Education, and the state legislature. So here we go with the ranked choice voting. Who supports this? Fort Collins Mayor Jenny Arndt. We can see it has bipartisan support between Republicans and, of course, Democrat politicians. Colorado Chamber of Commerce supports this. So does Fair Vote. So does the League of Women Voters of Colorado. Haven't heard from you guys in a while. And one of the arguments is, by expanding voter choice, we believe that Proposition 131 will encourage balance on both sides of the aisle and reduce the polarization that leads to bad policy for business. All right, let's see if this passes in Colorado, guys. Let's see. And who opposes this? Lauren Boebert, of course. Oh, my God. Dave Williams, and of course, Democratic Party of Colorado. So this is interesting, guys. You have bipartisanship that supports it, and you have bipartisanship that opposes it, which shows you that both parties don't want you to have other options. This is crazy. So you got Lauren Boebert and the Democratic Party of Colorado here, and the Green Party of Colorado also opposes this. So this is a whole mixed bag. So let's hear what they got to say. The Green Party brought this up. Just like the origin of the proposal, it's backed by big money. So in the open primary, what you're going to find is those who have access to those resources are those who are interested in protecting their corporate interests. They're going to fund the candidates that best align with them. Oh, that's a good point. So that's coming from Patrick Dillon of the Green Party. Lauren Boebert says, I will oppose this effort to rig our electoral system in Colorado with everything I have. Ranked choice voting is a scheme launched by well-moneyed interests who are only concerned with their own power. Okay, so it seems like this is a money issue. So we got to be careful how they're framing ranked choice voting, guys. You see how they're trying to frame it? We got to be careful. There was another one that I did recently that it was clear it would not benefit third parties. Now, there's over $8 million that is spent to support this and $61,000 spent to oppose it. That's interesting, folks. Yeah, the money. This is what Roger mentions. In regards to you can have a situation where those with big money flood the zone who makes the top four, leaving no room for grassroots. Yeah. And Colorado Proposition JJ retains sports betting tax revenue for water projects measure. A yes vote supports allowing the state to retain tax revenue collected above $29 million annually from the tax on sports betting proceeds authorized by voters in 2019 to fund state water projects through the Water Plan Implementation Cash Fund. That's interesting. This has bipartisan support as well from Democrat and Republican politicians. The Colorado Gaming Association supports this. And it says, we certainly always intend to pay that 10% tax with sports betting. The fact we exceeded expectations, I don't think changes that. Interesting. And support, $490,000 spent to support this, $0 spent to oppose it. So yeah, Roger would vote. I would go yes for that too. That would be a good one, the gaming one. And then the last, I think this is the last one. Yeah, because Colorado has a lot. Colorado Proposition KK, excise tax on firearms dealers, manufacturers, and ammunition vendors measure. Oh, a yes vote supports levying a 6.5% excise tax on the manufacture and sale of firearms and ammunition to be imposed on firearms dealers, manufacturers, and ammunition vendors, and appropriating the revenue to the firearms and ammunition excise tax cash fund to be used to fund crime victim services programs and also education programs and mental and behavioral health programs for children and veterans. That's interesting. So it says here, what would the measure do? So it looks like they would distribute money as follows: $30 million to the Colorado Crime Victim Services Fund, $5 million for behavioral and mental health, $3 million to behavioral and mental health for children behavior crisis, and the $5 million was for veteran mental health, and $1 million for the school disbursement program cash fund. And this is supported by Democrat politicians. And one of the arguments is it's not removing anything. It's not impacting anyone's Second Amendment rights whatsoever. This is really looking at keeping those services available that families, parents, and kids need. Who opposes it? Sorry. Of course, the NRA, the National Rifle Association, is against this. And their argument is that firearms and ammunition are already subject to an 11% federal excise tax through the Pittman-Robertson Act, along with a variety of other state and local taxes and fees. Interesting. No money spent to support or oppose. And that is Colorado, ladies and gentlemen. So I should get that clipped out for you at some point over the weekend. We are on the move. We will be going to Florida next, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and finish up here with the super chats, and then we will head on out of here, folks. I missed something here. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Kieran. Late from Glenn's, devoted to a new film, War Crimes in Gaza. It will be used to future evidence of the genocide. Brace yourselves, it's devastating. Thank you. Shout out to Wendy Melly for gifting one Sabby membership. And thank you. Oh, I did that one already. I'm sorry. Thank you, Gina, for the super sticker. Thank you, Spider. Stop killing the animals, Spider says. Go vegan. And thank you, Cooper. If the federal election had ranked choice voting, the vast majority of Green votes would end up going to Democrats. Without RCV, the Dems truly lose them. Choose wisely. Thank you so much for that. I think if people who are voting third party, I think if we wanted our votes to go to Kamala Harris, we would just vote for Kamala Harris. I think that's just how it works. Okay. All right, guys, that is it for me. I am off this Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. I streamed last Sunday, so I'm off this Sunday, and I am going to the fair. I hope you guys have a great weekend. It's fall. It's my favorite season, so it's time for me to go out there and get all the pumpkin stuff and all the fall activities. All right? Have a good night. Keep up the fight.